to the Fit Dads podcast. Today we're joined by the amazing Davi Birks. We're going to talk about Davi's life, his ventures that he's been on at the moment. Mate, I honestly cannot wait to talk to you about all things you.
Thank you.
Take us back to the start, mate.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It's cool. Love doing other people's podcasts, mate. I really, really enjoy it because it's also, I think, a great way to practice like what you do anyway for a job. So yeah, dream. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate you.
To confirm with your job, how would you describe what your job is? Because that blows my mind.
I guess Oh God, I am actually a podcaster.
Cool.
Which is, I think, if anyone watching or listening who maybe doesn't know me now, they're going to be like, oh, this is going to be good then, but it's not. So, so let's just have no preconceived, expectations of this.
Professional talker.
Professional talker. Yeah, professional talker, man. It's crazy to think that's what it is these days. I do have a few other things that I do. I think just doing a podcast on its own would be still quite difficult, both financially and everything, but for the most part, I just run a podcast, which I'm sure we'll get into, kind of grown into a media company. And then, I also do some marketing work for other brands and I have a bike company based in Sheffield, which is why all this started. So, a podcaster.
First of all, how long's that podcast been going? Because it's not really new anymore, is it? Like I guess we've jumped on the bandwagon pretty late. It's something I've always wanted to get into, just to discuss your ideas. I mean, you do something for so long and you're so passionate about it. What better way to express that than in a podcast?
Yeah,
speaking to people who love what you do, and we're both dads now as well, hence why we started the podcast, the Fit Dads podcast. But it's just, I think, all about communication. Yeah. And we mentioned this before, but it's a dying art nowadays, isn't it? Like actually speaking to people and picking their brains, and we love that. So, when did podcasting start for you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I totally agree with everything you just said. So for me, I started the podcast, I think, just close to 9 years ago, which is a long time ago for a podcast. I think there's obviously been, like we were talking about before, so many have started, especially in the last few years. But 9 years ago, man. And
this was pre-COVID, pre-all that stuff.
All of it, way pre-COVID.
What made you want to make the jump into podcasting? What was it about it that really appealed to you?
It's a long story. It's a good one, though, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good one.
We've got all day, mate. Don't worry.
We've got a bit of time. So let's get straight into that. So, before doing this and having a bike company, I had a motorhome company, camper van company. So it's based in Poland, and we did most of our sales in Sweden and Norway, and a little bit of Finland and Russia and all kind of crazy stuff. So started that with my cousin. I could go really deep into it, some crazy stories about it, but it literally started as like we bought a van, we went to Poland to this factory, we got it converted into like a camper van, like a race home it'd be called, so basically a place to put bikes in the back and then living area up front. And so we did one. I had another job at the time, then that turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4, turned into whatever, and this business actually became quite big, especially for 2 young idiots just driving around Europe selling these vans to people. It was nuts. But I guess with that came a lot of time being away from home, being on the road. European radio is pretty crap a lot of the time, let's be honest. And I literally used to drive from the UK to Poland. I'd get to Poland, usually pick up a vehicle that we'd sold or something like that, or one that needs collecting or whatever, and then drive to Sweden or top of Norway or anything like that. So I was spending so much time just driving around. And obviously, even at that point, what's that, probably 12 years ago, you take maybe a CD with you that you're enjoying listening to or something, or some of these vans didn't have USB connections, so you couldn't, listen to your own music even. Anyway, so I basically just discovered, I think, audiobooks first. I kind of found that, and then that somehow led into a podcast, and I can't quite remember the exact one or where or how or whatever, but all of a sudden I was just couldn't wait to jump in these vehicles and drive around Europe and like throw headphones on and just have my little skull candies connected to my phone and then listen to podcasts. Like many people, Joe Rogan was like the one that I found first, and I'd just listened to hours and hours and hours of just so much stuff. There was kind of along that journey of discovering podcasts, there was one episode, and it was Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell.
They get wild together.
They get wild together, especially back then. They get pretty wild together. I mean, again, I'm going back like 12 years, and that episode could have been even longer because I was just like back cataloguing. And there was just this one conversation, which was all about sort of following your dream. Maybe if you're not happy doing what you're doing, making a change. And at that point in my life, I was horribly like miserable. You know, I guess if you look at it from the outside, it's a relatively big company. You know, at that point, even listening to that, I'm probably driving somewhere to sell a vehicle for 100,000 euros. You know, from the outside, you'd be like, oh my God, these young kids are absolutely killing it. But I was away from home all the time. It was really stressful, like both financially and just emotionally. And I was just miserable. Like I was so depressed. I probably didn't realize it at the time, but I think it was because of podcasts and learning about all of these other topics that I kind of figured out like, okay, this isn't healthy anymore. You know, I remember I was like super skinny. I wasn't eating. I'd had girlfriends that were cheating on me like back home, and then you'd be like, then drive away for what could be months on end. Do you know what I mean? And there's this anxiety was like so high at that point. So it was basically this episode, Joe Rogan, Duncan Trussell talking about making a change. And from that, I was kind of just, okay, I don't know how I've ended up doing this camper van business. It's kind of cool. I'm enjoying it. It's kind of connected to what I do with motorcycles and speedway and mountain biking and stuff. But it isn't making me happy at all. This isn't what I wanted to do when I was young. So that really made a change in me, and then I kind of started looking at, okay, how can I get out of this? I don't really want to go too gnarly deep into like the business complications after I left, but basically I left with nothing. You know, we had this business with stock and this and that, and I left with absolutely, well, I say nothing. I had a Vauxhall Astra that we bought.
Small wins.
Yeah,
definitely something.
Yeah, so it's like I basically left with like $2,000. With this dream of getting back to what I wanted to do when I was young, which was have a distribution company. And I think when I was really young, I was obsessed with marketing. I didn't really know what it was then, but I was obsessed with like magazine articles and brand placement and advertising campaigns. And I just loved it. And I always wanted to do that, which is originally why I got the job I had when we started the camper van company, which was to learn about distribution. And I worked for a motocross company, distribution company, basically out on the road, and I just knew I needed to get back to that, you know. So got out of the business, the camper van thing, and started a mountain bike distribution company on my own, just me. Then I got a business partner, then I got another business partner, Mark. But anyway, so started this company. Kind of thought when I left the old camper van thing, I was like, I'm going to come out like so rich. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to have all this money. I'm going to get a premises. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. But basically came away with nothing. So started it. Got our first order. Our first brand we got was called Census Grips. So they make like handlebar grips. Luckily, the guy who owned that, Cam Zink, was a really famous mountain biker. He's probably one of the most famous free ride mountain bikers in the world. Gave us 30 days credit. So I was like, okay, I can get this order. If I turn it around quick, I've got 30 days to sell it all. I'll be okay. We do another order and we can get the ball rolling. So yeah, we did that. Got a first order, sold it all, blah, blah, blah. Things were going okay. We started looking at other brands, a little bit of cash coming in, this and that. But basically, we had no money to market at all. Like, we had absolutely nothing. Everything we were spending, everything we were making was going back into buying more stock. I'd kind of got myself into a bit of a bad financial situation by like putting everything into this company. You know, I was on a credit card. I was bouncing money here, there, and everywhere. I was driving around the UK, visiting bike shops, trying to sell grips, basically at that point, and a few other brands I think that we picked up. And I was like, right, we need to market this company. How on earth am I going to market this business with nothing? And I guess I kind of had two options, right? So I told this story on a mountain bike podcast recently, and they really got it, but I'll try and give some context for you guys because you probably, it'll all come clear. So basically, I gave myself two options. I was like, right, I'm either going to try and break the world record for the longest jump on a mountain bike. That was option one. Insane. It's the most ludicrous thing to think ever. It's just stupid, but I was pretty desperate. So it's like, right, I'm either going to try and break this world record. For context.
And break yourself, potentially.
Yeah, and break yourself. For context, I guess it's kind of like you guys going, right, I was thinking about this on the way. Right, we need to market this podcast. I'm going to go win Mr. Olympia next year and that'll do it. And you'd be like, you're insane. Like, it's not going to happen. So that was option one. Option two was there isn't a mountain bike podcast. And I kind of figured that out. Like, I was trying to listen to things about action sports and it was really hard to find anything. So again, this is about like 10 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago or something. So I kind of thought, right, podcast it is. Podcast seems like a more sustainable way of getting this going. So yeah, I basically started a podcast with zero knowledge of how to do it. Absolutely nothing. At that point, there wasn't really, like we're using Riverside today, that wasn't a thing. I just kind of figured it out through Skype initially, which I obviously do some research, figure out how people are doing stuff. But yeah, started on Skype. And it just so happened it was the first ever mountain bike podcast. So initially it got a bit of a kickstart basically because I think a lot of people were probably looking for something similar. The first ever guest I had was a guy called Sai. Can't remember his last name, apologies Sai, a good friend as well, who owns a bike company in Sheffield called Kotick. And they've got this really sort of loyal, engaged fan base. So I think once they put out like, oh, I've done a podcast, that was like a bit of a kick as well. And I remember the first one got 1,000 downloads and I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's actually a lot of people. That's amazing. And it was from there really. That was kind of like the kickstart that it needed. I've got all kinds of hilarious stories about other guests that I had on it. You know, like that initial point, people didn't know what a podcast was. Like it was still really new and a lot of people didn't listen. Like you're a bit of a fringe guy, I think, if you were listening to Rogan. Even at that point, you know, there wasn't that many people that really listened to podcasts. So I had all these guests on that would just be like, what are we doing? Like, how long is it going to take? Like, what is it? Where do I join you? Like, what's going on? Sound quality was awful. I'd screw it up every time. Got into some trouble through iTunes because of playing music.
Yeah.
So yeah, initially there wasn't really a guest. Like the structure that there is now is okay. I know what I can and can't do. Whereas I'd put a thing up on Instagram. What do people want to hear this week? And I'd just start the episode with like Guns N' Roses or something. And then yeah, I got some copyright strikes and that all had to get changed and stuff. But that going back to your original question, 3 hours ago, about how I got started. That was pretty much the route to getting things going.
I absolutely love that because that's just so typical of like someone who listens to Rogan as well, like someone who's ambitious, on the fringe, saw potential in an idea, because he was exactly the same. He saw this idea of like, I can see where this is going, and he had it way before anyone else did. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He's like one of the I'd be one of the OGs of it, but nowadays, like I said, it is a lot easier, but it's still not as simple as everyone thinks. I don't think. I mean, when we set ours up, there's a lot of things you need to know, from the cameras to the audio to software you're going to use, interfaces, cables, mics. There's an endless list of things that you need to tick boxes of.
Totally.
I have no idea how you sussed all that out 9 years ago, because I mean, we've been doing this a year now, but just over a year.
Yeah.
And even a year ago, it was just very difficult to know exactly what you need and what to get. And there was countless YouTube videos that I watched, and everyone was like, yeah, minimum 10 grand, this is what you need. It's like, well, we're not going to spend that. So what's the cheaper option? So
it's funny, man.
Yeah, the twists and tails you take is awesome.
My first episode I ever did. So you need an episode to put up to launch a podcast, right? You can't just start it with no audio file. You have to have something. I don't know if it's still the same. That's how it do. No, definitely, it's still the same. Yeah. So I'm like, right, I'll just sit in my bedroom, like my mum, where I was living at my mum's house, and record an episode and put it up. And it was the most cringe, weird thing. I think I was still kind of like just in a mess in my head, I think. And I sort of sat and I recorded this thing that was kind of really deep. My life's changed, and
I love that.
Oh man, it was so. And my business partner, all at Hookit, still absolutely rips me for it. It's like, as if you put that up on the internet, mate. Like, what on earth were you? It was like an hour of me just getting deep and emotional, and sat on a beanbag in my mum's, like, in the bedroom in my mum's house.
And at the end, you're like, by the way, this is a mountain biking podcast.
Yeah, literally. But it's funny because I never really set out for it to be mountain bikey. I mean, I did. That was kind of I always kind of think of it as the nucleus in the middle, and then you can just sort of spring off anything and everyone. So I did initially have loads of people on that were sort of, I was really into the keto movement back then.
Cool.
You could call it a movement? We can call it a movement, can't we? It
no,
was back then.
We'd call it more of a fad.
Yeah, exactly. It was more of a fad. But yeah, I have people on who are experts in that and just anything. I was just reaching out to anyone and anything basically that I could get to be a guest, because it was really bloody hard. People would be like, and I'd mess the time zones up, mate, so much, because I get a lot of American guests and Canadian or whatever, and I'd just screw the time zone up, and I'd be sat there waiting for them, like on this Skype call, and they'd never turn up, and I'd be like, where are you? It's like, oh no, you said this time. I'm like, oh god, all right, I'll wait around for another 5 hours. It'll be like midnight, and I'm sat there waiting. And it was a mess, mate. It was an absolute mess, and I'd never go back and listen to those episodes. They'd be so bad.
So in the early days, you weren't like niching hard on mountain biking.
No.
You were just like, whoever will come on
Basically,
and interview, we'll get on. Cool.
I had Ryan Nyquist. Have you ever heard of Ryan Nyquist?
That does ring a bell, yeah.
Like BMXer, super famous.
Okay.
There was a video game called Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX. He was like the sort of like character in that.
Cool.
Huge guest. And I just DM'd him one day. Like, hey man, like I've started this podcast. Would you be interested in coming on? He replied instantly. He must have been looking at his phone. Yep, really keen. Let me know time and day. Blah 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 blah.
Wow.
So we set it up. I go on this Skype call. He's not got video on because he's on his phone, and he had absolutely no idea what he was doing. None. He's like, so what is it? I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna just like talk for a couple of hours or something. Oh, okay, well I'm just going to the airport. And we did this episode where he was basically going through security. And I was just like, it's Ryan Nyquist, oh my god. Okay, it's all good, we just roll with it. And some of them were so cringe, so bad, but I was loving it.
Yeah,
absolutely loving it. But yeah, those first episodes were a bit of a trip.
We've said that before, like, it is really good for networking and getting to know people and meeting people that actually you really look up to as well, and
100%.
you'd be surprised how many people do say yes. Like, we've had some pretty cool guests on so far, and a lot of them have just been like people we kind of semi-knew. We were like, they'll probably never come on, but I'll drop them a DM, see how they feel.
Yeah.
We had Kate Cross on. I went to school with Kate Cross. She's like England cricketer. She's captained them, and she's just a massive face in the cricketing world. And I just thought, there's no way she'll ever agree to this. Next thing we know, we're sat in Old Trafford Cricket Ground in the media suite, and I'm just thinking, this is fucking awesome. This is so cool.
Yeah.
That was the first moment on the podcast where I thought, like, we're doing something here. Like, this is cool. I really like this. I would love to do more of this. But
you just got to shoot your shot.
Yeah, you have.
How many people don't know who just, they'll not do it?
It's cringy, but you miss every opportunity, don't you? Do you know what I mean? So just a random DM to someone is, you never know where it's going to go. They might say no, but you send that 10 of them, 2 of them say yeah. Totally. Amazing.
Yeah. With you, 100%. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that process as well. Like I said, reaching out to these people that were I idolised growing up, or that even at that point were the biggest names in the sport, and been like, here's an opportunity to do this podcast and tell your story a little bit. And again, it was new. I was really lucky. I don't know if there was luck. I don't really believe in luck, but people did it and they were keen to do it and couldn't wait to do it. And then that would be something that they present to their sponsors, and it just kind of snowballed. So I guess if we did fast forward a little bit, I guess the podcast then became bigger than the actual business I was trying to promote in a way. Not so much bigger financially, but definitely bigger in the time it was taking to manage this thing and keep it rolling.
And the reach as well. Like,
it's gnarly. But, I guess it is, like you say, it is. Like, the reach is huge. That sounds really kooky, that. The reach is really important, though, because especially as podcasting's grown, that is something that you do present to sponsors, and it's almost a no-brainer for a lot of them. That if you want to talk to a mountain biker, then there's kind of a few places you can go that you're going to get really deep conversations, engaging conversations, and through, again, I don't know if it's luck, but building this thing up for 8 or 9 years, it is kind of like a no-brainer these days for a lot of brands, but you're still going through that thing of them not really getting it. I think in our industry, a lot of marketing managers and stuff are still kind of the old school guys that have been there for ages, and you run your magazine ad, and maybe you might run a social media campaign. So we're still catching up, but the ones that are a bit more forward thinking are kind of keen to get involved, which I think is really interesting.
What I think really helps is the top guys making the mainstream. Like when Rogan got his like £100 million deal with Spotify, every business owner who's in marketing goes, oh shit, what's all this about? And then that gives everyone, it filters down, I think, for every
Yeah, it's
level
like
of
validation.
podcasting. 100%.
Yeah.
And I think a lot more people see it. And I was the same. I was listening to podcasts about 10 years ago when I first started my business, and I was listening to like all these, you know, self-help podcasts, and any author that I really liked that I read the book of, I was like, right, are they on a podcast? Can they elaborate on these things? So I'd go and search them. Obviously came across Rogan, but it was more to get me mentally in the right place to like start a business, because I'd never had any kind of business coaching, and these podcasts were so good for that. So many little nuggets of wisdom, and it does just mold your mind. It's like you create this. It's like you create your own cult in your own head through these podcasts, and you're just creating your own little echo chamber of things that you let in. And if it's all positive stuff, it's amazing how that has a relay on kind of your actions and your direction in life, and so much of your journey is resonating with me in terms of just
could not agree more, especially at that point when I discovered them in my life. Like I hated school. Didn't like learning, never really found any of it interesting. I left at 16. As soon as I could leave, I was gone. Literally the day after, I was out, see you later. But then you discover things that you're actually interested in, things that you'd never even considered. The example I always use is, you remember Graham Hancock? Graham Hancock has been on Rogan. You know, I'm you know, in my 20s, I'm driving around in this van, listening about lost civilizations, just absolutely blown away and captivated. Then I'm sat reading the book, and I'm like, this is amazing, you know, and how can you knock that? Because if it wasn't for that, I'd personally be a really different person, because you, like you say, you're in an echo chamber of the podcast, but before you're in your own little echo chamber where you don't even consider these ideas or these things or these topics or whatever. So I think, yeah, if you're just in the, whatever you call it, mainstream school, going to college sort of bubble, you don't get exposed to this sort of stuff as easy. And I think it's been amazing, really. I'm still obsessed with it.
I feel like it takes a lot of bravery to put your head above the parapet, do things where maybe other people aren't doing. Like when we were at school, it were football, it were, you know, athletics, it were other sports that were a bit more mainstream. So I imagine you getting into mountain biking, was that quite big when you were at school, or was that a little bit more niche?
No, not at all, mate. No, we thought we were cool, me and my 3 friends who rode, but we were not at all. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. Were we cool? I don't know. But yeah, it's not a typical sport. So I grew up racing motocross, dirt bikes, whatever you call it. That was kind of me, and that's not something many young people do. You know, it's kind of. It still is like a bit, and I'm not this, but it is like a rich boy sport. You know, it's not regular. It's not football. It's not hockey or whatever, other cricket, whatever dudes do. So yeah, it was definitely a bit of a minority in school, to be honest. But at the same time, if we really wound that back, it was kind of the Jackass era. That's kind of when what I mean?
That was so good, wasn't
and
it?
that was
skating was like, it was fringe, but it was also becoming like underground cool, wasn't it? And
action sports were blowing up at the same time. So X Games, what were they called? Not Dew Games, something like that. I can't remember what it's called. But there's another one where Kerry Hart did the first freestyle motocross backflip. I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, so that culture was kind of big. So, and I guess at school, we were attached to that more than we were being mountain bikers. We were just these idiots who liked Jackass and listened to CKY music and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. But I've always been a bit. It's funny, man. My friend sent me a video of our yearbook the other day. So he'd done a job for he's a tree surgeon. He'd done a job for a friend of ours at school's parents. She brought this yearbook out, and he's flicking through it. And, you know, you've got all these names that you forgot about and stuff. Anyway, it gets to me. And I'm literally wearing the same clothes as what I wear now. Like, you know, I had a moment, I was like, I'm kind of proud of that. I haven't changed, you know. I was wearing a Fox t-shirt, and not that long ago, I was sponsored by Fox. So it's like all the way back then, that was like, I think that was year 8. You know, I was into the same things. So I don't know. I guess you kind of can't see the wood for the trees sometimes, because you've always been in it. And I didn't care at school or even out of school. Like, if people thought I was cool or whatever, it's like, this is what I'm into. This is my thing. Love it or hate it. And I think secretly some of the girls at school were a bit like, actually, this dude's kind of cool. Like, he comes to school with broken arms and stuff. Like, what the other one's got is a little nick on the shin from playing football or something. It's pretty gnarly kids.
I think authenticity is attractive, isn't it? Like, you didn't know whether it's males or females. Like, guys like, I mean, it's like I say, Graham Hancock, like I'm engrossed by people who are passionate about what they love and have a real authenticity in their genuine love for it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you haven't changed just kind of...
It's weird, isn't it?
But yes and no, because like it's why everything you've done around everything that you love has worked so well.
Yeah, maybe.
Because there's no faking it. Like, you're not trying to just get into it for making money. Yes, that's nice. It's a good byproduct. We need that to survive. But it does well because you genuinely want good guests on there. You genuinely want to interview these people. You spoke about the mountain biker going through security.
Yeah.
Like, for you, it didn't matter that he was going through security. If this episode gets 0 plays, who cares? I'm interviewing someone who I love.
Yeah.
And... You know,
doing it for me, and I think that
if he's getting a pat down during the interview, who cares?
Even better. Can you film it? Like, make a good clip.
You in cuffs?
But yeah, like you say, it didn't matter, and I think the initial startup and you know, getting the podcast going and getting anything going, you know, I think you can't like be too focused on the financials because it's not going to happen, is it? It's just not. And I think I was at that point. I kind of knew it would. And obviously, you do have to have a bit of a goal, right? You're like, okay, I kind of think that some bike brands might get involved in the future and this and that. But for the first 50, 60 episodes, it felt like it was just me talking into my microphone. Like, no one gave a shit. But then things do start, if you just stick with it. And like I said, it's authenticity, and it's like, actually, this guy's not stopping with this. He's going to keep messaging me, see if I'll come on and just keep going with it. So a huge lesson in just sticking with something, I think. And it's funny because, you know, I guess what we talked about earlier, people starting podcasts and then disappearing, that's a prime example, isn't it? People say, oh, it's not happened to you. And that instant gratification is we've kind of lost that, I think, in society as well, haven't we? Especially with the younger generation. They just want it instant, and it's like, nah, you're gonna have to work at this for a decade, and then it might pay off.
The industry we work in is all around that, isn't it? We get people in shape, we change the way they live, they behave, they move, they eat, and it doesn't happen overnight. They're going to have so many setbacks, and you know, they're going to just give up at certain stages. And I think if we start a podcast and and our businesses where we're like, stick with it, you'll get the results. Then after kind of 2 episodes we gave in, we wouldn't really be preaching what we or doing what we preach. So yeah, you've got to have some foresight there in terms of knowing that it's not going to happen overnight. And same thing, like as soon as Brad said, you know, I've got a guy, he's got an awesome podcast, and we want to have him on, I knew straight away that this isn't someone who's going to be doing this for a year. This is going to be a veteran in the game.
He's been in it.
Yeah, and hence why my eyes like, awesome, let's get him on.
Cool,
I want to pick his brains for sure.
Appreciate it.
Did you have anyone to sort of pull you out of those tough patches, or was it just you? I know you said you got Ollie and another business partner as well. Were they encouraging, or were you just all, this is all on me, I need to pull myself out?
Initially, that was just me. I mean, I've got a partner, Emma, she's amazing. She's always kind of stuck by me and, you know, been a rock, which all women are, aren't they? You know what I mean? Shout out to women.
There you go. One for the feminists.
Get that one in there. That one's on.
Fit Mums podcast.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think with the podcast, honestly, like, I think at that point, if you weren't interested in them, you didn't get it. So my 2 business partners with Hook It didn't care at all. They weren't like, oh, how did that episode do, or what guess. I just did it. And I think the bit that they saw, again, you've got different personalities in a company. I'm way more forward facing than they are, always have been. I was the one that was out on the road visiting bike shops. They were more of the behind the scenes, picking, packing, running the financials, that sort of stuff. But when I think they started to see people placing orders with the discount code, it was like, interesting. And I remember one conversation where they were like, you know, 50 people have used your podcast discount code this month on our website. And that's kind of why I started it, right? In a way, it was to promote the business. So to see people actually using the discount code, I think they were like, okay, there's something in this, maybe just keep going. But again, we've never really had a conversation. It's just become one of those things now that I do. It's separate now. So initially it was part of one company, Hook It, the Sheffield-based bike company, mountain bike company, and now it's a totally separate entity. It's its own thing that I run on my own. But yeah, initially, man, they were really supportive. Obviously, it was they weren't not going to be supportive, but if you don't listen to podcasts, you wouldn't understand it. You'd just be like, "What are you doing? You're wasting your time." Like, but again, I think it's kind of good in a way because it's just you've got someone telling you it's not going to work. Not going to work, but like not been that supportive. It's kind of worked in its favour, yeah. And you're like, nah, and I'm bad with that. Like if someone says, I don't think you can do that, I'm very much, wait, it might take a decade, but we'll get there and I'll prove you wrong, you know?
Yeah, I would the same mindset.
I imagine the dangers of that when you're actually mountain biking or out on your bike and someone says, but you can't jump that.
Yeah, no, thankfully that's changed over the years. I'm not that guy anymore. Used to be, for sure.
That for me sounds like a good transition maybe into injuries. Like this is one
mate,
I really wanted to talk about. This. I'm sorry to cut you off, Ryan.
No, it's
I know you were keen. Worst injury for you, Davey?
Worst injury. Thankfully, I've not had loads, man. To be honest, I've been really lucky. One big one not that long ago. So 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So we did an event called Freedom Ride, which was the best thing we've ever done through the podcast. So we basically rented a bike park down south, got all of our sponsors involved. We created a festival, a mini festival, 2 days, just podcast listeners and viewers and stuff. We had like 600 people there over the 2 days, and it was like the best vibes, the most fun. So we did that, came home, and I think it was the week after I was still kind of like riding high off all this stuff. I'm like, right, I'm going out for a ride. And I do go through ebbs and flows of enjoying riding, I'll be honest with you, because especially when you work in it, it's probably like you guys, sometimes you don't want to go and do deadlifts on your own or whatever it is. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go for a ride today. But anyway, I was riding high, couldn't wait to go out for a ride. It was Sunday morning, went for a pedal locally, just me on my own. Me and my missus, Emma, were going out that day, family thing. So I was like, oh, quick pedal, I'll be out for 2 hours, I'll be back. So just from my house, went for a little ride around. It's quite blurry, this, I don't remember it. But anyway, I must have hit a tree. Not fast, it's literally, do you know where, you might not know, Gillyfield Woods is? It's in Holmesfield. It's a flat piece of woodland. And obviously most of the stuff I ride down is down steep stuff, but it's not. It was just flat. So I must have been riding along there. Anyway, I've somehow hit a tree with my head, and then fallen off the back of the bike, and then I broke. Well, basically, I ended up breaking 11 ribs in my back, separated shoulder, collarbone, decent concussion, and got found by a dog walker. So that's definitely been the worst one. I mean, that was a couple of months basically of being in bed. Ribs are horrible. I don't think I've ever broke a rib, but it is.
Thankfully not.
No, I had clients who broken ribs, and they said it was a breathing, laughing, moving, everything.
Rough journey that was. Like, that was horrible. I mean, all of it was hard. From the injury, obviously being in hospital, you know, really uncomfortable, to getting home, to having to get upstairs, to being in bed for a month. It was about a month, I think, give or take. I did do a few episodes of the podcast, but yeah, I was pretty much in bed for a month. What else? The pain pill thing was rough. I really didn't enjoy that, and I knew I needed to get off them pretty quick, but went through a bit of a journey with that, of just feeling awful. But yeah, that's the one, really. That's the one that's I think about, that really changed how I am even today. I think that was an eye-opener, I think, for my partner as well, Emma. She was a bit like, okay, this is not, I don't know, it just changed your perception of everything. You know, you can go out, and I spent most of my life doing pretty, I mean, I'm not really a pro mountain biker, but I ride it, I'm all right. But, you know, you push yourself a lot and you do things that are a bit out of your comfort zone. And then this particular day, I'm just out chilling on my own, headphones in, just not even thinking, just cruising around. And then you can have what could have been a real life-changing injury. If I hadn't got found, I couldn't breathe. And I'd punctured my lung as well. I missed that bit, so I punctured my lung, couldn't breathe.
Jesus.
You know, and thankfully, there's this little piece of trail that no one even walks up. This little old lady, bless her, walking the dog, found me, and, you know, I got airlifted out. Wow. So that one's been a real change. I think that's totally changed my whole view of even going for a ride, because not that I was doing anything silly, but you have to be, you know, kind of mindful that something can change quite quick. Yeah,
highlights the safety aspect of it. Yeah, as well.
And I think that injury has actually had a knock-on effect. I think totally changing my life in a roundabout way. I think from what I do, you know, it's hard to explain, but I lost loads of body weight and stuff. Obviously, I didn't do anything for months, and then
must have lost a lot of confidence maybe in like riding as well by yourself, and
just
thinking
a lot
like,
of it's different.
You know, if I go out and something happens, and
the good thing though is I wasn't doing anything silly, so it was just a freak accident. So I didn't lose confidence in riding in that way, because I was like, oh, it's just silly. It's not like I've jumped something and misjudged it or done a corner wrong. It's like, it's just something silly. I've just hit my head on a tree and then fallen off the back of the bike and landed on some roots. So I don't know, man. Like, I didn't lose confidence in that way, but I guess it just shifted loads in my way.
I think it was related to like
life.
being on such a high,
and
then maybe you took your eye off the ball,
literally. Then you're in bed. It's like, you know, everything was going so well, and you know, I'd say we've done this event. You meet all these amazing people, everyone's stoked on it, and then you're like, okay, reality check. We're in bed.
But I think the weird thing is, I think you need those reality checks every now and again, like, because it's a lesson for life, isn't it? Like, if you duck when you should have weaved and something don't quite go right, you know, who knows? Like, the fact your memory of it is hazy means you probably don't know 100% what actually happened that day.
I barely remember anything. It's funny, I walk through that woods quite a bit and ride through them all the time, and I'm always like, how did I get there? How did I end up there? But it's on a helicopter rescue show.
What is it?
Yeah. Oh, fun fact, I've been rescued. I've been airlifted twice. Both times were on TV.
Wow.
The chances of that is so slim. So yeah, I'm on Saving Lives at Sea.
I hope you're wearing the podcast down your t-shirt.
Oh mate, no. Got a few good plugs in on the I think it's called Helicopter Rescue.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm on that as well.
as he's been airlifted out, guys, like and subscribe.
Twice. Twice.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's different, isn't it?
It's different, yeah.
Yeah, people always, you've been in a helicopter. I'm like, yeah, twice. But I don't remember either of them. But yeah, twice. Okay, you go.
I don't think I'm quite ready. I mentioned before we started, my little boy loves his bike. I don't think I'm quite ready if he takes it this seriously now. I'm like bracing myself. I'm like, come on.
Brad comes in every week with a new story about his kid doing like, you know, something cool on the bike. He's on his handlebars now. He's doing wheelies. It's only going to progress that, and you can see the timeline, can't you?
Comes with it. It's one of them, isn't it? It comes with it.
And admittedly, I don't know much about bikes in general. Fun fact, and I can't believe I'm going to tell you both this. I didn't learn to ride a bike until I was 12.
Wow, there you go.
Which was, I just wasn't bothered.
Yeah,
and then learned how to ride it. My missus still thinks I can't ride a bike. She's never seen me ride one. So I will prove to her one day.
I mean, I'm 37, 38, I still can't swim properly. So it's like, it's just what you're interested in, isn't it?
Which I mentioned when we briefly spoke on the phone and when we first met about, I'd love to know the pathway for maybe youngsters who, maybe the parents are listening and they think, oh yeah, my little lad loves his bike, you know, selfishly. That's me. I don't know the pathway for that. So if you really liked it and wanted to do it more, I don't even know where to start with that. Okay. Like we know football, we know no martial arts, but biking, I have no idea.
There's obviously loads of different elements of mountain biking or biking in general. So let's just use two wheels just as a base. So you could either get into like BMX racing, mountain biking, which could be different elements like cross country, downhill, enduro. You could get into, God, I'm trying to think. Caught me off guard with that one. Ooh, I should know this. I mean, let's just use those two. I think initially though, a lot of people who get good at mountain biking start with a BMX background. So the cool thing about if you get into BMX, and I never really did it. I mean, I did, but I rode a lot of dirt jumps and stuff, which is just like trails in the woods and stuff like that. But if you get into BMXing, I think the cool thing about it is there's a huge community around it. So a lot of it is mums and dads and families that go away at the weekend and the kids race and stuff like that. And then they race because it's not that taxing on your body or anything. So I'd say, first things first, BMX racing. It's relatively cheap to get into. Well, the best BMX I think you could buy is going to cost you like $1,000 max, your world champion level. So yeah, BMX racing I think is the great pathway because you just learn all the skills that you need for any sort of mountain biking, pumping, jumping, it's all in BMX. So that's the one I'd focus on. It's easier to get to BMX tracks as well. There's a lot more, like you're saying, there's a pump track, there's a Rotherham BMX track around here, we've got Chesterfield, Sheffield, Bowl Hills. There's like loads of stuff you could do quite close. Whereas if you want to go mountain biking with him, bit harder, got to go a bit further afield, Peak District even, you know. And then if you want really steep tech, gnarly stuff, bike parks, you got to get out to Wales, basically, in Scotland. So if I had a kid, which I don't, even though I'm on this podcast, BMX, find a community. I think he's then going to like meet young people his own age. They're going to have a bit of competition, which I think is maybe quite good when they're young. I don't know. I'm not a dad. But I'd say it's a good thing to have a bit of friendly competition. So I personally say that. But then as far as like a pathway into mountain biking, it's a bit of a mess, I'll be honest with you, at the moment. So mountain biking, and we'll use downhill as the example, is going through loads of change at the moment. It's all to do with broadcast rights and how you get entry into World Cup downhill. So loads of it's changed, basically. So the scene isn't as strong as it used to be. So when I was growing up, we had the British Downhill Series, and these events were massive. There were thousands of people and thousands of parents and brands, and everyone was involved in it, whereas it's kind of on its ass at the moment. It's not really vibrant at all. And I don't really know the ins and outs of it. It's probably all political and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not as easy to get into mountain biking as it used to be. But again, there's so many different elements of it that whatever, I think, I think BMX though. I think that's the move. BMX the move. Yeah.
I feel like you'll probably feel the same with Harlow, like whatever she's into, you're going to try and support them and know that, okay, if you want to do this, let me maybe introduce you to this group or these people, and just sort of knowing that there is options. But as far as a foundational, functional level, I really like the fact that you've said BMX. Yeah. It's not going to cost the earth. No. There's already a community there.
Yeah, you pretty much do it year round, give or take. Like mountain biking, if it's wet and horrible and muddy, it's not as fun, is it? Let's be honest with you. Whereas BMX tracks are pretty much built to be year round facilities. So, and there's some amazing ones around the UK that you can go to. But I'd go check, especially this time of year, spring, summer coming. Go check some BMX races out. They do classes for kids as well, like actual young 4 or 5 year old kids. So
and that's a great idea. Go and watch it.
Go see it.
I've always said with the stuff that we do, like go and watch. Like I've been doing these High Rocks events, and go and watch. I said, if anyone wants to get into it, go and watch it. Like you'll be inspired. Like the kids will have these little idols that they look up to, and they'll want to copy them. Same way in football. And then when I was a kid, I was football mad. Every day on the kind of playground outside, I'd be this footballer and this footballer. Whoever scored the best goal that week. Go and get immersed in it, I would say.
Way more accessible back then, though, wasn't it? As well, football, it was everywhere. True. And I guess it still is for young people. I don't know, but BMX, it's more of like a fringe sort of community, isn't it? That you've actually got to actively go, and you're not going to see it on TV very often unless it's the Olympics. It's not like your son's going to turn the TV on and it's look, BMX time. It's never going to happen. So I think you've actively got to go out there and find the communities.
Hence why social media, Facebook groups, stuff like that, get involved in all that stuff, because that'll give you some ideas what's local to you, and there'll be other companies promoting their events and things like that on there.
You're right. Sure. Yeah, it's probably a plus of social media, isn't it? Is you can find these things, go on Facebook and stuff.
Few pluses.
Which there's one plus out there. We've just found it. Everything else bad.
And speaking of which, Ryan mentioned like you have these idols, you go and watch them.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with any idols who? Let's say like a dream guest. You probably already had them on. I know you mentioned.
No, I haven't. There's one that I'm hunting hard. Okay. Yeah. So my idol growing up. I mean, again, I was a big motocross kid. That's all I really consumed. Guy called Jeremy McGrath, my idol. Growing up, he was the king of Supercross. He was the absolute goat to me. I remember being... So I'm not from a wealthy background at all. Not, didn't have money growing up. And motocross is really kind of expensive. Even back then, a motocross bike's a couple of grand. Plus, you need a van and you need a parent who can go away at the weekends and all the stuff that comes with it. And I remember watching this Supercross video, and Jeremy McGrath talked about being 16 when he started, and it changed everything for me, man. I was like 14. I'd not really started properly because I thought, I don't know, I just hadn't started properly. I thought it was never going to happen. And then you have this person you look up to telling you, I started at 16, and I was just like, oh my God, it's still possible. I can still do it. I can still make it. Jeremy McGrath growing up, I actually was really lucky enough to meet him. Had dinner at his house once, which was insane. Like it was.
How'd that come about?
So I lived in America. For about 4 years, on and off.
Cool. Whereabouts?
California, which is where the motocross community is. Everything motor industry is. It's kind of moved a little bit out to Florida and stuff now, but back then when I was 16, which is a few years ago, everything was out there. So I moved at 16
Wow, just to follow that dream.
Yeah.
Again, I love that.
Did my GCSEs. Few days after, gone on my own.
Wow,
it was mad. It was crazy back then as well. Like,
so how did you end up in his house?
So I lived at a place called MX Heaven, Motocross Heaven, which was a training sort of facility where people would go on holiday. So I went there on holiday at about 14, 15, and basically said, I was like, oh, could I come out here and help? I can work and or do something. And they did have the odd opportunity where they'd let you come out and work for free like a slave. They wouldn't pay for flights or anything. You'd be there like sweeping up and doing all crap jobs. And I took it at 16. I was like, yeah, of course I'll come and do that. So, I got a visa, and in fact, did I get a visa? No, I did get a visa in the end, but I did like my 90 days you could do then. So Stefan, who owned that business, Stefan Elvin, he grew up racing with Jeremy McGrath. And one day I'd been there for a few years. It never really got talked about. He was like, oh, I'm going to Jeremy's for dinner tonight. Do you want to come? I was just like, whoa, yeah, of course. And I don't even remember it that well because I was that like,
young as well.
Yeah, man, I'd have been like 18, 19 or something. But yeah, I basically went out to America at 16, still with this little dream that I could make it. I mean, it's again ridiculous, like trying to win Mr. Olympia, without a physique.
What point did that dream start to fade a little bit? Was it because it's?
I thought about this a lot actually.
Yeah, we've all had those moments where you kind of maybe young, a little bit naive, and you're just thinking, I can do whatever I want, and it's a nice place to be mentally. But there's some point along the way when that dream just gets a bit of a hit.
Yeah, totally.
And it dies a little bit, and it's a really tough moment for a kid, isn't it? What was that moment for you?
I think it was probably. There's a few, I think, along the way. Again, motocross was kind of a rich boy sport, and I think you do realise when you're quite young, like, okay, this kid's parents are sacrificing remortgaging a house to make sure that he's on a team, or that they've got enough bikes and travel and stuff like that. There's those little bits along the way where you're like, okay, we just don't have what it takes, like as a family unit as well. And it's an interesting one for you guys to look into maybe, because it is super interesting how kids, especially in motocross, get homeschooled really early, and then by the time they're 18, they're pro, but they've already like had a career. They've been doing it for over a decade at a high level, and a lot of them just burn out and fizzle out. So the whole thing about starting at 16 really hit me, because I was like, okay, I'll not be burnt out. I can do this, whatever. So there's loads of those when you're growing up, going to races, stuff like that. We were a shitty transit van, crap bikes, and then you've got the rich kids who had like the motorhomes and the 2 bikes, spare bike, all the good kit. So there is those, unfortunately, I think, along the way. I think there's that little bit inside you that thinks, nah, I can still do it. And there are people who still do it, obviously, but they've got real natural talent, not just average. And then I think being out there, so again, you guys don't know much about the whole motocross scene, but the level in the States is 5x what it is here. So you might be like, and I guess at that point I'd done a few British championships at that point when I was living here. You go out there and you're just like, oh, I'm just another dude, I'm just literally nothing, so there is that. And then I guess you do kind of then think, well, there's other ways to make it in a sport. You don't have to be a pro rider, and that's kind of even where I sit now with what I do. You don't have to be a pro rider to do this or to make a living. You can find other ways in an industry to make a living, whether it's starting a business in it, a product, a podcast, a video creator. So I guess around that time, 16, 17, I was like, okay, I could just find something else in this industry to and still be in it, but not
the main man, basically.
But not a pro rider, yeah.
It's similar, I think, in a lot of sports. Like, everyone wants to be the striker, don't they? Scoring all the goals.
Exactly.
But someone's got to be the goalkeeper. Someone's got to be the left back.
Yeah.
Someone's got to
be manager.
Someone's got to put the kit out for the team.
Do you
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the kit man, I'm sure, he's just happy to be involved in a club that he loves, and he gets to be there around the players every day.
Yeah.
He makes a living doing what he loves. And
less pressure is ultimately might be even better.
True. True. Yeah.
I'm just thinking comparables in our industry, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of thinking that you have to be a transformation coach with your abs out all the time, and you don't. There's numerous ways that you can do it. There's functional trainers. There's there's a little bit more strength and conditioning stuff. It does just get you thinking, like, you don't have to take this linear path.
So definitely not.
I like the fact that you've taken not necessarily the back door, but you've taken the long way around.
Yeah,
which is,
yeah.
Why not?
No, I agree totally. And I think a lot of people, especially in your guys' industry, do see certain people who are these fitness influencers, and it's not, I don't know, you don't have to do it that way, do you? You can, and I think that's something that I've probably learned as well in my life. You can learn from anyone. They don't have to have the best physique. Just if you want to be jacked doesn't mean that you need to train with Arnold or Sam Sulek or any of these people. You know, you can learn from anyone as long as they've got the knowledge.
I like the fact that there's Sulek out there. He's
Yeah,
a more modern, modern
I'm a bit of a Sam
iteration of
Sulek fan, dude. I'll be honest.
He's cool.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that you could imagine doing like motocross, couldn't you? It could have been like cool, anything
I
that
think
he did.
anything he did, he'd probably be quite successful. So my history of that's really funny actually. So my dad was a sort of semi-pro bodybuilder.
Oh,
so when I was young,
Okay.
when I was really young, I used to go to the gym with him.
Cool.
You know, we trained at my gym, didn't you?
Yeah.
Spit and sawdust, and I just
What gym's that?
It's called Spire Barbell.
Spire Barbell.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Chesterfield way. Yeah.
Is it? Okay, cool.
It's gnarly, dude.
Is
it? Yeah.
Old school bodybuilding style
Yeah,
gym.
but
Love
like,
that.
but not. So I didn't go in there for at least a year because I used to run past it on my normal 5 mile loop.
Run away from it.
And I'd be like, oh, there's no way I'm going in there, but it's full of absolute monsters. And it's the absolute opposite gym. It probably was back in the day, but it's like an old school bodybuilding gym where now all the guys who go are in the 50s and 60s and they just go for a bit of a boys club. But mate, like, it just reminds me of being a kid. I used to go to this gym with my dad. It was it used to be called Rawlinson School. It's now Norton. Like Graves Tennis Centre and stuff like that.
Okay.
My dad had a gym there that I don't know if he ran. I can't quite remember. But yeah, my dad was that stereotypical 80s, 90s bodybuilder with the baggy pants and the Miami Dolphins shirt, long hair, jacked to the gills, tanned up. And
Do you think that's where the American influence came for you, for like that kind of
maybe,
pull on America?
Maybe, yeah, it might have done. I think I've always just been obsessed with the States. It
culture.
felt like home.
Yeah.
Even when I first went, I was like, I should be here. Like, this is where I live, really. And I was going to move there. I was dead set on moving. After that camper van company, at that point, I was moving. My partner, my girlfriend who I'm with now, fiance, she came to my leaving party, which she didn't know was my leaving party. But I remember being like, are you leaving? I was like, yeah, I'm going to America next week. She's like, oh, how long for? I'm like, yeah, I ain't coming back. But it's been nice to meet you, sort of vibe. I didn't go, obviously. I was like, she's probably worth hanging around for. She's pretty cool.
Oh, that's nice stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole bodybuilder thing, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm not massive at all, but it's the world I seem to live in at the moment. I think going back to that injury and losing loads of body weight because I was hurt for so long, I then kind of just, so my training thing, especially racing motocross as a kid, I used to spend a lot of time in the gym, loads of cardio. You did need to be quite fit and strong. But then I almost burnt out on being in the gym because I just hated it. To be honest, it was like bit you had to do to be good at the thing at the weekend. To have the fitness at the weekend, you needed to do the work through the week. Then I got into CrossFit a little bit, a few years ago.
Cool.
Really enjoyed doing that. Again, I think this is going all over the place here. I'm sorry, but when you work in an industry, you need to get out of it quite a lot. I think because everything I do evolves around biking and mountain bike culture and action sports and stuff. So I do need something that's opposite. You know what I mean? Where I played ice hockey for years because I'd go there and no one knew, what do you do for your job? Or no one wanted to talk to you about bikes, but it was just hockey.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I think the gym culture thing at the minute for me is kind of that again. So I lost loads of body weight, been in bed for a few months, not really doing anything, couldn't ride a bike for 6 months because my back was busted up. And then I just was like, you know what, I'm going to start going to a gym again. I got a friend, Darren, who lives up in Barnsley, who's, he's massive. But he kind of just was like, come to the gym for a bit. And I used to drive up to Muscle Unit in Barnsley a little bit, go there. And then I was like, actually, I'm kind of enjoying this. Like, this is fun. It's an escape, headphones in. I'm just training. So I've kind of fallen into that world a little bit.
Algorithm starts to change a little bit.
Yeah, it has, man. And I just, I don't know, I'm enjoying it. And I think ultimately if you're enjoying it, you should just keep doing it, right?
I agree.
It's nice to have these things. So I'm really bad at turning a hobby into a job. I've always done it, hence why I was sat here now. I'm like, okay, I like this thing. Okay, how can I make money out of it? How can I? And it's not necessarily for the money. It's like, how can I build a project around it? How can I do something with it?
Just that entrepreneurial spirit. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's always there, and it never goes away. It's really annoying, but but with like training, it's not a thing like that for me. I'm not thinking, oh, I'd like to open a gym. I just do it for the sake of doing it and enjoying it.
But all the things you've done have all been active, right?
Yeah.
So there's no surprise that something like the gym comes along where you're pushing your body, you're testing boundaries.
Yeah.
It's a bit of it's fun as well, which is the main thing. Like, and you're drawn to that.
And I think the bodybuilding world is so interesting because it almost goes back to what we started with. Like, nothing happens fast. So you look at Sam is probably a good example. Sam Sulek, I say it like I know him, but like Sam Sulek, and you go, yeah, I kind of seen that journey for those years. It doesn't happen quick. Like, look at the consistency, every day showing up, documenting the whole thing. And I think that's why that content is so relatable, or probably not relatable to a lot of people. But for me, I'm just like, yeah, isn't it? Like, this is rad. It takes so long to make a change. And no doubt it's conversations you guys have all the time with clients. You're like, you're not just going to come here once. You got to keep coming. You got to stick to your you got to stick to your diet and this and that. And I don't know, I guess it's lending itself to my personality a little bit at the moment.
I think with you being so heavily involved in media as well, like someone like Sulek is good because, exactly right, he's just documented his journey. That's all he's done. There's thousands, millions of people out there doing exactly what he's doing, wanting to become IFBB pros in the bodybuilding world, entrenched in it. They're just not documenting it in the same way he is. And you can see he's the guy that's got that camera set up every session, just talking shit basically. But he's just he's quite a polarizing character. He's a bit odd and quirky, and maybe looks like he doesn't quite belong in the bodybuilding world.
Definitely.
He's got that kind of quirkiness around him that takes you back a little bit to those fringe era of like BMXing and motocross and skateboarding. He's got that vibe around him,
100%. Yeah. That's probably why I've related to him a little bit as well.
And I like him as a character. I think he's got that good, warm heart around him where he's in it because he loves it. And you can tell that. You can't fake that online, especially when you put out as much content as he does.
Same. I'm with you. That's 100%. You can't. It's not fake. That's just him doing his thing, isn't it? And I think that's what you learn doing this as well. You can't be fake. You just have to be you.
Yeah.
And I think I was really guilty at the start of trying to be something that I thought that your audience needed or wanted. And that is a horrible place to exist because you're just trying to put on this thing and you're trying to be, especially in the probably, and no doubt it's the same for you guys, but you're trying to know everything about everything, and it's not sustainable. You can't know everything about everything. You can't know every race result. You can't know every brand, every whatever lift, whatever it is. You can't. You just have to be honest about it. And I think I had a massive switch. I'll tell you about it. It's actually interesting because I had one guest on called Luca Shaw, who's a really famous mountain biker, and I used to do so much prep, like gnarly amounts of prep. It was a bit weird. I'd have like my laptop screen and then like notes all around it on A4 paper. And that would, I guess in a way it was pretty good because it'd give me some sort of structure and I'd be like, okay, and I'd look at that and I'd, ask the question or whatever. And I remember this one episode with Luca, after about 10 minutes, we'd gone through everything. And I was just like, oh shit, now what do we do?
Yeah.
And there was a switch there and I was like, I'll just be me. I'll just hang out. Like, just talk, like a normal dude on dude sort of thing. And then from then, I've always been like, nah, no prep, just be you, hang out.
Yeah.
And, and definitely that's our vibe of what we do now with the podcast. It's not an interview. It's just, people always say it feels like you're just hanging out in the pub with your mates. And that's kind of what, it definitely lends itself. I lend myself to that sort of style.
Yeah.
I'm not like a Chris Williamson who's just going to be like, question, answer. He's a bit more like that, right?
Facts, figures, wants the details. Yeah.
Whereas I'm just like hanging out, just talking, life, isn't it?
I think I found that podcast that like in our industry, you've got those ones that are really informal, super informal. Like you're just going on there. I think about a guy called Dr. Mike Israel.
Yeah.
And
I'm in that world.
His podcast, good. Yeah. And I think he's really down to earth again, really nice, warm-hearted character with a bit of a personality. And when I listen to his stuff, I know for the first 20 minutes of the episode, I'm going to learn nothing. I'm just going to, it's going to be innuendo joke after innuendo joke. It's going to be really fun, exciting. And then there might be some kind of good stuff at the end, which is quite, take-home points.
Yeah.
And then you've got like Andrew Huberman, who's very scientific, researches, and probably does like hours and hours of prep. I mean, the amount of stuff you'll learn just in 5 minutes on his podcast is wild.
Yeah.
And it depends what headspace I'm in.
Totally.
If I'm in the headspace, I'm like, right, I want to absorb and learn, and I know when I'm in that stage, I'll go to Huberman. Right, I'll listen to a full week of him, take on loads of information. Maybe it's things that are applicable to some clients that I've got right now. And then I'm like, I just can't be arsed this week. I just want an easy watch. Same way, you know, Simpsons is an easy watch now. I mean, you're not watching that to take on great content.
To take your mind off things,
but sometimes you want to watch a good documentary as well.
Yeah.
Podcasts are exactly the same.
Totally.
You have to have these different ones in the locker for how you're feeling on certain days. And I don't know where we fall in that. I've often thought like we have some really formal guests on that are just great for laying out the facts and figures. But I think even with those guests, I think about Roisin, who we had on last week or week before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing pelvic floor expert with loads of information, and we learned a ton. But I think even within that, we want to keep it down to earth. We want to keep it a good, flowing, warm, light-hearted conversation. And I think you have to find that balance, really.
Definitely. And you know what you like doing. And I think that's the biggest thing as well. It's like, what do you enjoy doing? Because if you're trying to force something, I think people see through it as well quite quickly. People are like, that's not him. Like, that's fake. And I was definitely guilty of that, for sure. And I get like really embarrassed if I didn't. Let's say someone just brings something up, you know, some sort of video that you probably should have seen or whatever, back in the day, and you're like, oh, I don't remember that one. I used to get like really embarrassed about it. I'd be like, oh yeah, and I just agree. I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember. And then that eats away at you after a bit. You're like, oh, you fake motherfucker. You can't be like that. Just be like, no, I don't remember it. What is it? Just. Yeah.
I think producing content is really good for that, because I edit the podcast.
Yeah.
So I listen to myself back.
Oh.
And that's quite, it's really, really hard initially. But then after a while, you realise when you're being fake as well a little bit, and when you're forcing it. And that's probably helped me to be more real, I think, actually hearing myself back. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's helped me be more honest in conversations, and again, not just agree with things. And I've had it on the podcast a few times where someone says something, I'm like, yeah, and because they're expecting you to know, and I'm like, I didn't have a fucking clue what they were talking about. I'm not gonna lie. But I don't want to do that again. I want to probe, and sometimes actually, as an audience member listening to a podcast like this, if you ask the question that they wanted to ask, rather than just agreeing with the person, they get more value as well.
Yeah.
Because they might be sat home going, I don't know what that is. Whereas if I've just gone, actually, no, I don't know what that is either. And it highlights that conversation, answers the question, everyone's better for it. So
I totally agree with you.
Just, again, all coming back to authenticity. And which, it was actually Chris Williamson that said this on the podcast. It's today's world, for some reason, it's so hard to be yourself, isn't it? And I wonder if that's down to social media and perceptions of who we should be, and seeing the best of the best do something. And how many podcasts are just copies of Rogan's? Like, you know, we all kind of take inspiration from it, but you've got to have your own path and your own ideas. And
I think there's no like new ideas. I don't think there's not many anyway. So we all take an inspiration from somewhere.
Yeah,
I've been really critical with what we do now of not. I mean, this is awful. I've never listened to another mountain bike podcast in my life, and I've from the start, and I know people who do them, and I'm always like, yeah, man, like I'm sure it's doing really well. I'm not, because I've never wanted to take inspiration from someone. Like I've listened to more comedy stuff, especially like the American comedy stuff, obviously, and more health and fitness stuff, like, and that's where I'll take inspiration from. And I don't know why, it's just something that I've had in my head that I've really stuck to. There's like, I've got a good friend who does a podcast called Gypsy Tales, which is really big. So I listen to his. He does
Gypsy Tales. That sounds
Gypsy Tales. Yeah, it's motocross. That sort of thing. But cool. he's my North Star. We actually started at the same time. Right. But he's just like massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the and what's difficult about doing this is there's not many people to talk to about it. That's why it's interesting to talk to you guys, because there's not many people who do it, and that do it to a level that's good. Do you know what I mean? A lot of it's just asking you for cheat codes or whatever there is, and it's like there isn't any. I don't know what you're expecting me to tell you. Yeah, it's just doing it and carrying on doing it.
The best thing, I mean, as soon as you went to the door downstairs, my first response was like, I can't wait to pick your brains on like everything, mainly the podcasting, so I want to see you. But it wasn't ever a sense of what have you done because we want to copy it. I want to hear you.
It's interesting.
I want to hear your journey. I want to hear your journey. Like, what did you do? Because that just, it gives us more hope and inspiration and just an insight into, how long does it take to like build a good podcast.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing it for a year now. Nothing happens over the space of a year. Even if you train intensely for a year, you'll look better, but you're not going to be Mr. Olympia. You're not going to be Sam Sulek.
No.
How many times on a podcast can we mention the name Sam Sulek?
Yeah, we're trying to get in that algorithm,
we'll just title it the Sam Sulek.
Sam Sulek chat with Davi Birks.
Yeah.
There we go.
We're trying to hijack something, hijack the algorithm.
He's not a bad person to have on your algorithm.
No.
But yeah, I love, and again, it just comes back to someone who's passionate about what they do and picking
it's been
their
a hell of
brains
a
on
journey,
it.
man. It really has.
for
I
sure.
think the most recent iteration of it all is the most fun I think it's ever been. So, the podcast changed in lockdown for us. Well, for me, quite a lot. So, I don't know if you're fully aware of this, but basically it was me on my own for the first 5 years, or 4.5 years, 5 years, something. Just me. I was the host, all the guests, etc. And then we went into lockdown, and Ollie, who is now my co-host and business partner and stuff, he'd been a guest on before. I didn't know him at all before that. We met through the show. He asked him to come on. We ended up having a really fun episode. Like, it was so fun, and we bonded over this mutual love of podcasts, which is sort of similar to what we're talking about today. Like, you find, oh, you listen to that, and even back then, it's probably like 7 years ago. You'd be like, what? You listen to that as well? That's amazing. I thought it was just me. Like, oh my god, you listen to it was The Fighter and the Kid, which is Brian Kelly.
Yeah. I'm a Fighter and the Kid.
That's kind of how we bonded. So then we just kept talking, and Ollie's like such a good character. Like, he is charismatic, he's hilarious, he's just he needed to have a podcast. And I think from that first episode we did together, I'd message him quite a lot and be like, dude, I'll help you set this up if you want to do one. Like, you really need to do a podcast, it'd do really well. And he's not really the kind of guy to start one on his own, to be honest. Let's just be honest, and I think he'd agree with that. So we did a couple more together, and then basically we go into lockdown. And I'm like, this is going to be a bit weird. I don't know how long this could last, but this is weird. People are stuck at home. So I messaged Ollie and I was like, mate, people are stuck at home. Let's do a podcast. Let's just do a weekly show. Let's just talk about whatever. We'll have no plan. We'll just literally hit record and see what happens. So we agreed to do a test. We did like a pilot episode, called it The Lockdown Companion. And that is what took all of this stuff that I do to another level. It was doing that, Ollie coming on. Ollie's got a pretty big social presence, a big character in the mountain bike world, and he brought a level of, he brought an audience, a bigger audience over. I think it was already doing pretty good. We had sponsors and stuff like that, but he brought his audience. I didn't really realise at the time, I need a co-host. I need someone to bounce off and and it just worked. The first episode was hilarious. We had no plan. We literally were just going along with it as and when. And I guess it was just luck that we were in lockdown and that people were looking for content, and that kind of went in our space pretty viral. Like, the episodes were doing big numbers. We were getting every guest we could ever even wish for because they weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
Everyone was at home. So we'd be like, oh, who should we get on? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of an example. Danny McCaskill's a pretty famous mountain biker. He's like this street trials YouTube guy. He's a friend of both of ours, but we're like, it would be hard to book Danny. But we're like, dude, do you want to do a podcast? Like, yeah, of course, I'm not doing anything. Boom, Danny's on. And it just snowballed like this. And I think that obviously brought sponsors, because Ollie had personal sponsors and they were like, whoa, this is doing big numbers. And I think from that moment is when we really leveled everything up. We then went out of lockdown, came out of lockdown. We started another series called Where's Ollie, which was like a play on Where's Wally, because Ollie does a lot of travelling. So I'd like catch up with him every month, see where he is, what he's up to, tell some stories. But then we went back into lockdown again. So then we carried on again. The Lockdown Companion came back. And then, I guess we got sponsors and, things were going pretty good. And I think, I basically said to Ollie, look, man, we need to do this. We need to just carry on. Like, how can we make this better? So we were like, okay, let's convert a garage, which he had down south. Let's build a studio. So that was studio volume 1. So I was like, yeah, cool, happy to drive down. I'll drive down once every 2 weeks. We do 2 episodes, Monday and Tuesday. The one we do on Monday comes out Wednesday. The one we do on Tuesday comes out the following Wednesday. And we'll just rinse and repeat, which is kind of still our structure. It changes a bit depending on where we are, what we're doing. But that's kind of how we roll. So we have a producer, a small team. Monday, Tuesday, that's what we do. And then they edit Wednesday, Thursday. So it's like 4 days basically of turnaround time. So yeah, that was Studio Volume 1, and it's been a journey from then. You know, we're on our fourth iteration of a studio. We had a massive mold problem in the first one. Ollie's a bit renegade. He's a bit like rough around the edges, you know, and he didn't give a shit that we had mold everywhere. And we got like 10 cameras literally just like with mold on them.
Until you're sat again chronically ill.
Yeah, it was bad. I remember pulling up once, like you go up to Ollie's house up the drive, and there's this like garage thing there. I remember pulling up and he's just like doing this on the roof. I'm like, what is he? And I got out. I'm like, what are you up to? He's like, yeah, scraping this mold off. I'm like, mate, I think we need to make a change. This is disgusting. Yeah. And our producer Doug is super militant. He's so dialed. Like, he's from a film production background, military background. He's just, everything needs to be perfect. And you could tell it was wearing on him quite a bit, been in this mold infested shithole. So yeah, so we moved around a few bits, and then we've just signed yesterday for a new one, which I'm really excited about, which is just like the dream setup, I think. But it's been hard to get one, really hard, because it's such a weird business model. What will be there twice a month, so 4 days in total, and then especially where we record in Surrey, it's really expensive to get an office that you know you're not going to use. It just feels weird. So yeah, we've dropped on somewhere which is actually good and financially viable. So
could you not do like an office share with someone? Was that the option?
Yeah, but I kind of like
not having your shit touched, basically.
And sets. I think I've kind of got into not set design, but there's a vibe
for sure.
And we talk about this all the time. Studio Volume 1 in the garage was the vibe. Like, there was something about it where it was just rough enough around the edges that you were comfortable. The audio was great. The video looked good. We had sofas, and you'd have a guest and you just feel super comfortable.
Okay.
And there's just something about that, and it's really hard to find it and recreate it. Because then we've moved a little bit, so we did and still do sort of record at our producer's house, which is great, but there's just something missing. It's like it's not our space. We have to build up and take down every time, so we build a whole set.
Wow.
And then because it's a spare room, we then take everything down. Which if you look at our studio, you'd be like, fucking, that's a pretty sick setup. We literally build the whole thing every time. It takes hours, and then take it all down. Wow. And there's just something about it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, it looks great, feels great, whatever, but there's something about the vibe, and it's like, if you're a Rogan fan, you know that if you go in that room, you're having a good conversation. There's just something about it.
Yeah.
So it's creating that, and we're always trying to figure it out, like, what is it? And I think we've just found a place, which is it. As soon as we walked in, we were like, oh, this is cool.
That just clarifies for me that you are just someone who gets it from a podcasting point of view. 100%.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Like, it's about, just when you get guests on, it's about creating that environment where they feel most comfortable.
Yeah.
And we, I guess, have similar issues where, we do it in a certain place every time. But can we create that vibe in here? I don't know.
I think you've got it. It's comfortable.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
But I've always thought about how can we get it better? What can we do? And a lot of it is the set design. It's like, what can we put on the wall behind you that makes it a little bit more comfortable and niche, and like bits of like health, fitness in there.
Yeah.
Would my missus be okay with me putting like things on the wall? Probably not.
Squat rack. We just put a squat rack in the living room. You'll love it.
Massive barbell across the top. Is that all right?
It's feasible.
But if it was up to me, I probably would. I'd probably just attach barbells up there and get all sorts of weight plates down the side. Does she want to change her living room into a mini gym? Probably not. But set design, I totally agree. I'm a very visual person as well, so I get that.
Totally. But it's and we've really learned, it's the whole thing running up to it as well. I think that's so important, especially when you have a guest and like the message, do you want a coffee? It's those little things that, that you pick up on, and they're like, oh, that's like the way you invite someone, the way you send an email, I sent you that thing, right? That like guest deck that we've got. All those things actually add up at the end to make someone feel really comfortable. The way you invite them in, all of that stuff is like actually important, because
from the moment you first meet them, that first interaction, the moment they leave, every aspect of it is important. But again, it has to be managed in a way where it's really authentic again as well.
Definitely.
Like, you can't force them into like this is the perfect way we meet guests and everything. It's also going natural. So it's a really fine balance, and I think the more podcasts you listen to, the more people you realise over at the top are really fucking good at that. Like Rogan's so good at keeping the conversation in formal from a kind of an education value point of view, but every now and again just swinging it back funny and throwing in a joke and making everyone laugh. And I think because he's a comedian, it's always going to be good in that sense, isn't it? Because he can just see the funny and everything. But it's you get who's good and who's bad at that, and they've been through loads of like podcast changes in terms of like set design and stuff. They created like a bunker at one point, didn't they? And that didn't feel weird. The same. There was a vibe around that didn't feel the same.
I think guests were saying it. They were like, "Ooh, this is a bit weird."
Yeah,
whereas it looked really futuristic, which isn't the vibe for that.
I agree.
Thing. It's not it.
You want the guest behind a red curtain, and you want him with this big Joe Rogan this sign behind him like that. That's just it. It works. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And they went back to that, didn't they?
Yeah.
And so every podcast has to have little things and accents that just make it unique to them. And look, not everyone even watches it. Most people will probably just listen to it. So it makes no difference. But it's more for the guest than anything else, isn't it? The environment for the guest.
And I think as growing it as a business, the visual is more important now. I think. I don't know. You put this on YouTube, right?
YouTube, we put it on social media.
Stuff like that. And it's that, I think, which is the bit which gets really hard and time consuming. It's like you've got this content piece, but then like how do you harvest every single thing out of it for all of the different platforms?
Preaching to the choir there, mate.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's really difficult, and that's the side of it that people don't see as much. Because they put a social clip up, it's like that took hours.
I was up till 2 a.m. doing that last night.
Oh my god, it's so much work. I made this document. I think I told you. Of all the different steps for releasing an episode. There's 72 that we've got to release an episode, which is, that is literally AM, social, PR. Like it is broken down, but it is everything from getting the content to getting the photos to. And because I need something to work to, because I do that side of it usually. I don't edit or anything anymore, thank God. But I do get a content piece that then I have to do all the stuff with. I don't make social clips anymore, thank God, but still have them, and I need to figure out what to do with them.
My next question is, what year did that change? I want to know when I can hand it over.
I want to know for Ryan as well, because I do feel for him sometimes.
When did it change? So I did it all on my own for... The first time we got an editor was the lockdown stuff.
So you're five years.
I did about 5 years on my own, but bear in mind a lot of that wasn't video, so it was audio for the first 3 or something like that, and then the video stuff started, and you go through iterations, don't you? Right, so you've got video, cool. I'll put it on YouTube, all good, and then you go, okay, some social cuts would be good. Like, not some cuts would be good. So you go, okay, right, I'm going to sit and I'm going to change camera angle every time, which takes hours and hours and
there
hours.
Are certain automations you can get nowadays.
But back then I didn't know that. I'd just be like, I've got this like 720p camera, guest has got one, it's at an awful angle because they don't know what they're doing, and you're like trying to make it look good. So then you've got that, and then you go, okay, well maybe then I can take some social content out of it. Okay, but then I need to cut cameras to make the social content work, and it's like you just go through these iterations. It gets easier because you get faster at it. So anyway, going back to the original question, we got an editor who, bless him, we paid £50 for an episode in lockdown. That was our first one, which is, 50 quid, but, he was doing 4 episodes a month, so it's a couple £100. He was a young filmmaker. He kind of wanted to... I think what we can offer people, which I don't want to prey on too hard, but it's like we can offer people a bit of a route into the bike industry. So it's like if you want to get job, whatever, do a project for a brand, if you put us on your like resume, it's a positive. So we, especially initially, I was like, oh look man, like we'll give you 50 quid, but we'll drop your name in for this project and this project or that project. So, but yeah, originally it was that, and then it's only when we started doing the studio that it was like, no, we need someone, a team basically who can really run this properly, because there's so much anxiety about doing it yourself.
I was just saying, like, in the first 5-10 minutes of every podcast we do, my mind's racing. Did I start the audio or not? Did I press play on that camera or not? And that's always going through your mind a little bit.
The reason we got a studio,
it's
because of that Riverside.
Was it really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's because of that. When we were doing the lockdown stuff, we went from using Skype to using Riverside. And at first, we were like, I'm going to cast so much shade on Riverside now. But at first, we'd gone from Skype, which was all right, to this new system, Riverside, with like higher quality video and better audio and this and that. And it was good for a bit. But then lockdown, everyone was doing podcasts. And I don't think they could keep up with the amount of it's information, whatever you call it, storage, I don't know. But every time, it got to the point where every time we did an episode, all I was thinking about was, is that working? Because we'd do it virtual, so I'd be constantly looking at the little upload thing, and then you go to download the file and it'd be like missing, or there'd be a chunk missing, and then so that editing was taking way longer because you'd be then like trying to find where it gone out of sync for audio. And honestly, it was like the amount of time and money it was taking to edit one virtually, like a virtual file. It was easier to build a studio, I think. Wow. And that was our like,
tipping
this
point.
Is getting too much now. Like, we can't have massive guests and then fuck the audio up, because we haven't fucked it up. They've fucked it up. So I actually had, because they've not been going that long, Riverside, the CEO on a call, because I was like, mate, we've got sponsors, and I've got this is the third week we've not got an episode because you've fucked it up.
Wow.
So it was Riverside that basically forced us into building the studio.
Wow.
Because it was just going to be easier and it's more sustainable, and like, okay, we know we've got the file, you know.
We did exactly the same thing. We had the biggest one we messed up was we had an Olympic level nutritionist on, Shane Nugent, and for whatever reason, Riverside just didn't work, and the audio came from the camera.
Right.
We had to publish the audio from the camera, which is over there, small mic, and we just had to do our best. And I still, and I had so many people message me saying, "Oh, I like the title, look great. I can't wait to watch it." And then they go, "Man, I couldn't get past 10 minutes. I'm sorry, it wasn't. They couldn't listen to it."
Yeah,
and I really, really was annoyed at that, and it wasn't our fault. It was just something to do with Riverside.
Just tech.
I'm always cautious about like the tipping point. Like you said, the tipping point for you was Riverside and its upload ability, really. Is there any other tipping points that you've seen in the business where you've gone, no, actually, we're going to do this now? I feel like we need to pivot. I know you said the vibe already.
Yeah, the vibe, definitely. I think sponsorship.
Yeah.
When we first started getting good deals coming through, you kind of feel like you need to do a better product.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's like, okay, we've got these brands coming through that are like trusting in us. And also, if they're paying you, I feel like that's not just free money. It's like, right, what we're going to invest that money into. So let's just say it's $1,000. It's like, cool, all right, we can buy a new sound recorder or whatever. And I feel like once that started happening, the way that I'd look at it, if I was a brand, I'd look at the product and be like, oh, that's nice, I want to invest in that. So if you're not making that, how are you going to ever generate more? I know it sounds kind of obvious, but that's the way I looked at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, big tipping point that was, and also once you've done one in person like this, it is way easier. And I think Ollie and I, because we'd done it virtually for 4 years, we were a bit nervous, like, is this even going to be the same? And as soon as we started doing it, I was like, mate, this is, how much time's gone past? Like, I feel like we've just been hanging out, like. Yeah. So yeah, I think doing one in person was okay, we're going to go all in on this.
Cool. Yeah. We've never done a virtual one, and I've always said that same thing.
Awful.
Like I just think something's lost with like the video and the delay sometimes, and the rapport you can get with someone's very limited over calls.
Body language, like so much. Exactly. You only see this bit of someone. Yeah, you don't know what's going on. Yeah. You know?
What kind of stage did you think it's time to bring sponsors on? Was there a certain amount of listeners you were getting, or a certain amount of plays per month? What time did you think it's right to kind of get sponsors now?
I don't really know if I had a point where I thought about it. It just happened.
Okay.
Yeah, the first big one that we got, I said big one, the first one really. Obviously, I was kind of sponsoring it through our own business anyway. So that was like a proof of concept, accidentally. Like, okay, people are actually listening and using the offer code.
Okay.
Which is transferring to money. So I went for a ride with a friend. It was really muddy and horrible bike ride. And when we got back,
you remember all these bike rides.
Yeah, I remember that one. And then we got back to his van, and he got this jet wash out, little portable pressure washer, like battery powered. And I was like, that's amazing. I've never seen anything like that. And it basically pulls water out of a bucket, so you don't have to have, a mains water system, and it's battery powered, so you don't need like when we used to wash bikes at a motocross track, you'd have a petrol jet wash, really loud, or a generator. So anyway, he's got this little battery powered jet wash out. I was like, oh, it's amazing. So I randomly just sent him a message and was like, hey man, like we've literally, hey man, hey works, not man. I've just been on a bike ride, just use this tool. It's absolutely amazing. You know, have you thought about doing podcast advertising before? That's literally the first, I think, sponsorship DM I ever sent. And bless him, Joe, who's I still deal with now, came back and was like, yeah, never thought about it, would love to learn more about what you do. Let me send you a pressure washer out to use. And then that came and I was like, oh man, like got a free product. That's pretty sick. Okay, interesting. And then basically he asked me like, what do you want? Like, what would sponsorship look like? And I had absolutely no clue about selling sponsorship, like zero. I didn't understand our value. At that point, it was just me. I didn't understand the value of what we were doing. I didn't think it had translated that much to sales. So I think I told him like 100 quid an episode or something. And they were just like, I mean, Works is a massive company. Like, so obviously they were like, well, yeah, it's pocket change to us. Of course, we'll sponsor your little podcast. Good luck. And they did. And it was just one of those things that I think was just the perfect product at the perfect time in the perfect market.
Right.
And I remember him messaging me about a few months later and being like, dude, like 200 people have used your discount code. You know, that's translated to X amount of sales. We're more than happy. Let's just keep going. And then obviously every year you renegotiate.
Okay.
But just having that proof of concept to go to other brands and say, hey, like we generate X number. Like now we do about 150 grand of sales for that brand a year.
Wow.
They're not gonna rebook. It's almost like a no-brainer for them. Like every year they're like, yeah, cool, yeah, carry on.
Amazing.
So that was like the first thing. And then I think once you do start investing more time into something, it's kind of, you know, you've built this platform, it's got value. It's just understanding that value I've always really struggled with. Like I've done some awful deals in the past, you know, just not understanding it, like and just not getting a grasp of it. What does that actually mean to a brand if you can give them data and an audience that's engaged that will probably buy that product? Like that's actually got weight to it. I've since got someone else to help, which is really nice. So Gareth runs all of our partnerships now.
Cool.
And shout out Gareth because he's sick. But it's just because I was just doing awful deals. And like the bike industry is very matey, you're doing things for a favour all the time, you know what I mean? Like it's great, but all of these customers and brands you work with, they're all friends, so you're always doing something for nothing in a way. Not nothing, but it's hard to explain. But you're always like, oh, you know, it's all right if you've not got much budget, just pay the same as last year. And then, you know, I ended up getting Gareth on board, and it's just the dream really, because you just need someone sometimes to look at it from, like if I was working with you guys, I'd be like, right, zoom out. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean? And you kind of needed someone to do that with us, to just zoom out and be like, okay, why do you do that? Why is that brand on that bit of your set? Are they paying for that?
Yeah.
Because it's actually got value now. Like, you know.
Monster gets a lot of free.
It does get a lot.
No, Monster. Yeah. Still no one's knocking at the door, but we'll keep trying.
Yet.
Maybe moose juice.
Moose juice. That'd be a great one for you guys. But I think you just got to start with that, and it's just like, why not? Send them a thing. Send them a deck. Be like, hey.
True.
It's always on the table.
One thing I like about that story is it's a useful bit of kit.
Yeah.
Like you use that jet wash and you thought, this is amazing. Our audience would love this.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I've always had in the back of my mind, like what would parents find useful? What would, you know, young kids find useful? Yeah. And I've always had that in the back of my mind because if it's authentic as well. Like a lot of those early deals, as much as you might look back and say they were shit.
Yeah.
You go, actually, no, they were authentic.
Yeah,
and
felt
having
right.
someone like Gareth in, because I've heard you speak about Gareth before, and to confirm Davey's not doing this for show. He really appreciates what Gareth does. It's mega, man. It's mega. Have you got any dream partnerships that you'd love?
There's a few. Kind of need a new mattress at the moment, so I'm kind of like, I'd love to work with someone like that.
Eight sleep.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's bad though, isn't it? When my missus always takes the piss out of me for this, because I'm Northern, so I'm pretty tight. I don't buy anything for myself ever. I never treat myself, and I always, unfortunately, goes back to like trying to turn things into a business. And I'm always like, you know, oh, we need a new mattress. Oh, let me just email 8 Sleep. Let's see if we at least get a deal first.
Yeah,
and then maybe we'll buy one.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as AG1 was an actual dream one originally. I'll tell you the AG1 story.
Yeah.
I did, yeah. I'll tell you again.
Yeah, no, I've not heard it.
Have you not?
No.
So AG1 reached out, and I think AG1 3 years ago, especially, was like, whoa, that's like a Rogan sponsor. That's like, that's Andrew Huberman. Like, this is massive. Oh my God. And I was blown away that they'd even reach out. But again, if you're looking in a niche of cycling, chances are you're going to come across our show. So it sounds cocky, but like, I kind of understand why they would. But I was still like, whoa, that's insane. So Ollie and I have this call with the lady at AG1. Bless her, Monica. She was amazing. She was lovely. And just stupid to the point, really corporate, really businessy. She's like, okay, what's your rate? So we told them our rate. I mean, it's changed a bit now. So it's like 250 quid an episode. And she's just like, that's insane. What are you doing? Like, you're so cheap. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it's insane. What are you doing? And she goes, right, I think that's what we charge. No, it was a bit more. Anyway, we'll keep that bit to ourselves. So she goes, right, I'm going to double what you charge, and we're going to book 52 episodes. And I remember Ollie and I just like, on a virtual call, just been like, what? But that really helped us. Like AG1 coming on board with, a good investment and making it sustainable throughout the year. Because then you're like, okay, we're not just going episode by episode, paycheck by paycheck. We've got a partner throughout the year. And it was every month, paid really good. That deal's changed now. I feel like learning more about AG1 and their business model is very much, maybe they do invest heavily at the start, and then for a sponsor like that, they've got a year's worth of content off you, which is good. So they've already got that, which, like any podcast, it's there forever. So they've got a back catalogue of a year, and then they move you on to a rev share model, which is average at best, Yeah. Because then it's basically everything that we sell through AG1, we get 30% off, which is great, but it's not going to be like a guaranteed ad rate every month. But I feel like looking at what they do, that seems to be the model of like, okay, we'll get in early, we'll invest in them. Then once we've got them, it's like, we'll just move them on to the shitty rev share model. And then
I've heard some of the numbers that like
do it.
Huberman does from that 30%.
Astronomical.
You're talking millions.
Yeah, astronomical.
Someone's talking like...
But we don't.
Someone's yeah, it is... For certain podcasts, I can see how that works.
Yeah.
And for someone like Andrew Huberman, who's all about health, fitness,
definitely.
like you can see why his audience is so on that. Like listening to him for those 5%. They want the 5% difference in everything they do with its performance, athletics, sports,
whereas the mountain
recreation.
bikes are like, how much a bag? I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But it really helped us. That was the original reason for doing the first studio, as well as along with Riverside. It was like this perfect storm, right? Which I guess when you look at it now, you do realise we had a perfect storm. With Riverside was screwing up, AG1 paid us really well for a year, and it was like, okay, we've actually got the money to do this now, and we're not going to be like worried about it. Let's actually invest a bit of money into building a studio, which sounds way gnarlier than it is. It's not. We've literally bought some chairs and some microphones, build a studio, bit of that soundproofy stuff. Like, it wasn't that hard. Yeah, it wasn't that difficult. But yeah, as far as dream sponsors though, mate, I mean, I don't know. Kind of work with a lot of good ones, to be honest.
You've already ticked off Marion and Fox.
Yeah,
and,
Marion Fox. Yeah, I got Troy Lee and stuff now as a personal sponsor. So
cool.
I don't know if there's a dream one. Manscaped was great for a bit. Manscaped was really good.
Yeah, they do a lot of podcasts, don't
they?
Yeah.
Mainly because it's like, Christmas gifts are kind of sorted, aren't they, forever? You're just like, oh, Manscaped, that'll do.
Yeah.
Here you go, Dad. You happy with that? I don't know if I've got a dream one. There's got to be something out there that I can think of.
Well, shall I have a think? Have you got a dream one, Ryan?
Yeah, what's yours?
A dream sponsor? Monster, of course.
Monster.
Really, yeah.
Fair.
No, it would be, I don't know, maybe like... Your dream sponsor will be one where you can get the most from their product. Do you know what I mean? Or pays loads. So, I don't know, what do I use a lot of? Like, I mean, I do have a lot of energy drinks, you know what I mean? So maybe that could be one. There are some free gym membership somewhere.
That's a good one. That's fair. That is a good shout.
JD Gyms, Pure Gym, why not? Get them on board.
Why not?
One of our first ones, and one that I still work for, is Saks underwear.
Oh, okay.
Underwear brand, mate.
Yeah.
Dream, innit? Blokes, aren't we? It's like, we don't ever have to buy underwear again. That's pretty cool. I'll get you guys hooked up with that as well. That'd be a good one for you guys.
Saks, okay.
But yeah, Saks is amazing. Like, that's an absolute dream. They were like one of the first brands as well to sort of sponsor us and do something, which was nice.
Cool.
But yeah, what about you? You've got a dream, eh?
The one thing that I recommend to a lot of people is resistance bands. And the amount of money that I've spent buying clients resistance bands, I'm just like, I just need a resistance band sponsorship. I really do. I swear to God.
Because they're really transferable as well. You can take them anywhere, like on the road, for example, for you, if you were doing workouts here, there and everywhere.
I'm all for that.
Have you not thought about just doing it yourself? Because if you've got a platform, why don't you just have FT products or FitDad, FD products, and then just sell resistant bands through the podcast?
We're workshopping right now, aren't we?
Is this a business meeting? It feels like one.
Just do it yourself.
No, I think I always say this to Ryan, but like I'm very wet behind the ears to this stuff because I was in management, so very, like middle management as well. So a lot of like the boardroom stuff straight above my head, like literally straight above my head. I'd just be like, how can I service people? What do they need? So I was very connected to the people. So all this stuff, I'm always learning. I've been self-employed for 3 going on 4 years, whereas I think Ryan, you've been in self-employed game for much longer.
10 years, 10 years.
So I'm still learning. I'm still this little fledgling chick, just being like, what's happening right now? So
it's funny actually, that same thought, and it's not really crossed my mind on any other episode, but the same thing, just hearing you, how the podcast has filtered into other businesses for you. Definitely got me thinking about the same thing, like because you sell products, right? So when you sell products, you've got these things like discount codes and stuff like that, whereas we're coaches with our own individual businesses. It's hard for us to transfer this into 2 separate businesses. I mean, we could hand out discount codes, things like that, for our potential services, but it's different when it's a service. I think it's different to kind of gauge your own individual price, like, and you never want to maybe discount it too often, too much, because
we cheap forever.
We can only work with so many people, whether that is one-to-one or online as well. So
it's been a fun journey.
The product side of things is definitely piqued my interest.
How do we make this thing in the middle? And I always use the podcast in the middle as the nucleus. Like, how do we make this thing actually work? And so that's basically what we've done, is built a media company. So let's say you come to us with FD resistance bands and you go, right, we just want to run some ads. We'd be like, yeah, cool, of course you can. That's like the easiest thing we do. Let's work together on a script. What's the offer code? What's the click? Like, where are we sending people? We figure that out. But then our kind of business model now is we'll go to you and go, right, do you need some like assets? Do you want us to run a photo shoot, make you video content? Do you an email? And then that's how we've like built it out into more of a business that's more sustainable. Because just the podcast is bloody hard. Like, really difficult. And obviously, depending how you structure certain deals, you might get FD Fit Resistance Bands gives us a discount code, and then we get 10% of that. And then that's kind of how you've built it out. Do you know what I mean? So you've just got all these different factors that actually make it work, but it's a lot. Like merch is a massive one. Like, if we do good merch.
Do you know what Steve mentioned that the other week?
Merch
he said, if you get a Fit Dad's t-shirt, I'll have one. And that immediately was like, maybe we do get some like Fit Dad's products.
Steve's the man.
Steve is the man.
Steve is the man.
We need Steve as our business consultant. That's what I think so. But I think you're right. I think products is something that maybe we need to just have a think about. I mean, it's about value, isn't it? And we mentioned so many different things on the podcast, from resistance bands to equipment. And
I remember early days when we first had a couple of guests on, like we had Mick Blythe on, Liz Bamforth and Rebecca Jepson. People were saying to us, like, why are you getting all these other coaches on? Is that not like a conflict of interest? And for us, it was literally saying, these people exist. Like, we want to give you guys a platform to talk, an evergreen resource. So initially, that's what we set it out to be. It's really helpful. They've got their own stories to tell. Let's just make a platform for people to talk. And now I think it's quickly becoming something that, maybe we can do a little bit more with. And I originally said to you, Ryan, I don't dip my toe into stuff. Like, if I'm going to do something, I want to make sure that I can actually give to it. So organising guests, all the the flow of the pod. I love that side of things. But
I've always been a massive fan, like you say, about like a rising tide lifts all ships. And I've often had people say, oh, why are you doing that with him or whatever? And coming from listening to podcasts and watching how that American comedian vibe works, where they all do each other's show, like, why aren't we doing more of that in our industry, in your industry? I don't know if it's the same, but we should all promote each other. If ex-athletes got a big project that they're launching, they should do the media tour and do all of the podcasts. Whereas there's still this little bit of a like, oh no, we're getting him on. Oh, you've got him on. Like, what? We wouldn't do an episode with him. You've just done one. It's like, what? Come on. Who gives a shit? I think we should all help each other, not just in biking, but in this and doing this together and sharing clips together. Like, we should all just help each other. I think it only benefits everyone, right?
Again, it's another Rogan quote, but it's the family mentality, right? I think sometimes we're getting this, and in our industry, alongside a lot of others, it's really rife for that, where we think there's a certain pool of clients and we all have to kind of get our hands on them.
Yeah.
But you have to remind yourself that the obesity epidemic is only getting worse every year. Like, there was a stat that something like 55, 57% now of Americans are like overweight. And that's getting worse and worse and worse. It really is getting bad. And so there's no kind of shortage of clients.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of people wanting to be in shape and be fit and healthy. And the movement for that is massive, as you know, online.
Yeah.
But we all need to work together to make our products the best that they can be.
Is it harder now, getting clients? Like, has it got
The
more difficult?
the landscape's changed massively in our industry because we've got a lot more of a bit of a Wild West situation going on, and we've spoke about this a lot on our podcast, but online coaching now is a big thing. So people, and the big turning point pivotally for this was definitely lockdown.
Right.
Because people couldn't be coached one-to-one.
Yeah.
So they wanted to have a trainer and still have someone pulling the strings, but without, they weren't able to see them one-to-one. So these online coaches started kind of taking off, and I'd always done things one-to-one before that point. But I think the online market now is a bit of a Wild West in that you don't have to be qualified. There's no certifications for it. No one's checking up on you. You can just, get in shape yourself, post a few pictures and say, I'm now doing training programs, and people will buy into that.
Especially if you become like an influencer, sort of.
Exactly.
If you've got that, I've seen a lot of people, get my program. Like you say,
Exactly.
there's
no
if they're any good at
validations.
it or...
And people do get burnt. A lot of people getting burnt, and they've got such big audiences that they can sell hundreds, thousands of these programs for quite cheap prices and make a fortune.
Yeah.
And if you're only spending 30, 40, 50 quid on one, you can't really save much because it's a small investment. If you want that more detailed coaching, you have to go to someone with a bit more nous, I think. But and a lot of people do prefer the one-to-ones. I've got some clients who come to me and they would never do online. But the online works really well for some people. It actually does, because it's great. They can train when they want. You send them the programs. It's accountability. We check in with them every week. For some people, it's awesome. It's about knowing as a coach where that client, when they come to you, is and what they need.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the online coaches will just convince everyone that this is what you need. You need online. Don't worry about the one-to-ones. And there's no certifications needed. Like I said, it is a bit of a Wild West situation at the moment.
Okay. I mean, obviously the one I see is James Smith a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
Big fan of James Smith's content, to be honest with you. Big for just how he does it, the accountability, the
earth,
honesty. Exactly.
No bullshit.
But I guess there's a lot, I don't know if there'd be a lot of people in your industry just following his path, because he's literally laying it out.
For sure.
What you do, how you do it, this and that.
Yeah.
The hard thing that I found is it's probably harder to stand out, especially if your message rings true, but it's never been easier to be good.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah,
so for me, the quality is that saturated. I don't know if you find this in podcasts in general or the other industries that you work in, but I feel like things are that terrible from a quality. As soon as you go above and beyond for someone and actually give them maybe more than what they expected, or maybe giving them extreme value for money, and they go, oh my God, I'm going to tell everyone about this guy because he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you'll probably find that the most successful ones don't necessarily shout the loudest in our space sometimes.
Yeah. And they're busy, so they don't need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I found that a lot, like doing anything sort of marketing standpoint. I'm like, I don't really need to. But then it's that farming kicks in your head and you're like, I still need to sow some seeds somehow.
Yeah.
Because I want people to understand that I've got a message to share.
A waiting list would be nice.
Yeah. And it's sort of knowing that everything that we say isn't just behind a paywall, which is really interesting in our space.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to do this and give away a lot of information.
Interesting that. Yeah. I don't know. I always put myself in the situation, obviously, I've never had a coach. And I guess a lot of people might have that same apprehensions to it. I don't know what the word is, but I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I think a lot of people, it's with trading especially, it's a bit like, I always use the analogy of, you can buy a cake tin from anywhere, right? You can go to Tesco right now, buy a cake tin, but you're not going to cook like Mary Berry. You can buy a gym membership, but you ain't going to like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you might not get anywhere near where your goal is just from having that gym membership.
True.
Coaching is the missing link between you having the gym membership and actually being where you want to be.
Yeah.
It's the missing piece of the puzzle. It's the method. It's the ingredients. It's the everything involved in getting you that end product, which is actually what you want.
Yeah. Accountability as well is a big one, right? It's easier just to fuck off when you've not got someone telling you.
Definitely. I share similar views in terms of personalisation.
Yeah.
So you could find anything online right now, but is it personal to you? Is someone prompting you with quite a thought-provoking question? Is someone there to say, actually, this is going to work for you? Like, you've told some amazing stories so far today, and all of them were very personal to you. Like that lady from AG1 were like, actually, let's look at this way. And people giving you this really personalised info that you remember. It sticks with you because it's very personal, and that, in my opinion, is the role of a coach, to really personalise stuff.
That's good.
I think with the amount of content and information online now as well, you could probably disrepute every single piece of content with something else. So if someone else is telling you carnivore diet is the most unbelievable thing, look at all the facts, the figures, look at what it's doing to this person, they'll give you a little testimonial about them, and another person, like human, will come on and go, no, that's scientifically incorrect, and here's the studies to back this up, and every single piece of information can be countered with something else. And a coach, I think, is like your North Star, I call them, where it's just about you and what you need, and there's no other kind of information. And we get it all the time where clients come to us and go, you told me this, Ryan, but I've seen this online, and I'm like, just put that to one side for a minute. Just follow the North Star where we are. Let's see where we're heading. And I think people just spin themselves around in crazy circles sometimes, pent up with all this information. There's almost too much information overload sometimes, and see that in our industry where there's so many moving parts to getting in shape, and everyone's convinced that their way is the best. We've mentioned a few big online presences up before, guys I'm not going to give any more attention to because I don't think they need it, but people are very set in their own ways as well about like what works and what doesn't. And if they get on your algorithm and you start hearing that
you have your own echo chamber,
and all you're hearing is like, everything in the supermarket is really bad. Don't eat bread, don't eat milk, because all this, and they're pulling out packets in the supermarket and they're going for all the ingredients. You get completely entrenched in like, shit, I just need to go to this. I need to have 7 foods and have those things every week and I'll be where I want to be. But it's just that, again, nuanced approach. Like, what is actually right? What's actually wrong? If you have got some intolerances, let's get you an intolerance test. Let's find out what's right for you, and we'll build a program specifically for you and your needs. That's the biggest selling point for really good coaches. And there's nothing better than referrals, I think, in terms of getting new clients, because they're people who are coming to you off the back of a trusted person. If someone is coming to you and their friend's been to you, there's a thought in their mind as well that if I don't do well, they might tell my friend. And there's also that as well a little bit. I think referrals are the best, and the best coaches are ones that generally don't really struggle for clients. They don't really struggle to stay very busy because the reputation is very good. There's lots of recommendations coming through, and the information they're putting out is usually pretty good as well. And number one, more than anything else, I think they're able to back it up. They've got proof in their own physique. They've got proof in their own results, what they do. There's proof in just so many things in their business that they can show that I know what I'm talking about, basically. So it's very different, the service-based industry to the product-based industry, right? Because we're constantly having to like almost prove ourselves. Like we know what we're talking about. I promise you, we know what we're doing. Whereas I think products are a little bit more easier to push, maybe. But again, you've got to have, it's maybe a smaller price point, but you've got to have a bigger audience for it.
For sure.
I suppose Ryan's just touched on like the how to be a successful coach. For you in particular, what do you put maybe your level of success down to? Is there any character traits that you think you've got? Any a risk taker maybe?
God, you're good at questions, you aren't you? Something. I think changing what success actually means to you is a massive thing. Okay, because I think the example I gave earlier, right, about having the camper van company is a great, and for me it couldn't have come at a better time, and I'm really lucky to have had that in my life, because that was, from the outside, young, doing well, like quite wealthy for a young lad, especially when like financial gain is like currency, and you think, oh, I'm going to get way more girls and this and that. But miserable, like absolutely hated it. And I think, you hear those stories a lot through various podcasts of like, oh mate, I was making all this money but I'm miserable, and you're just like, fuck off. No you weren't, it was mega, mate. You were travelling it was so good. But then I've actually pretty much lived it. Not millions and yachts, none of that, but enough to be like, okay, I'm pretty set and I could probably retire, sort of vibe at some, when I was young. So I'm really lucky to have gone through that. And then as I've changed, as I've got older, success for me is about freedom. And yes, doing the podcast and having a media company and all the other shit, it's a lot, but I've got freedom. I've got free. The fact that we're sat here today at 11 o'clock or whatever it is, doing this is like success, because we're not digging holes somewhere or doing something we don't enjoy. We're actually doing something that we want to be doing. So I think my just understanding of success has changed loads as I've got older. And I used to think, like a lot of young people, that money would give you happiness and success and it'd make everything okay. And it just doesn't seem to. Maybe it'd be different now I'm older. I'd know what to do with it. But I'm happy now, like doing me, and like I love the hustle of what we do, and it's not easy, and I actually enjoy. That's like way more fulfilling to me. So yeah, I think just changing what success looks like, to be honest. And to me, it is freedom. Freedom is success. You know, yeah, that's just kind of how I've reframed it. I had this conversation with my mate the other day. We had literally the same conversation about he's just giving up an entire business because he's just overdoing it. It's just, you know, and I think when you're younger, you think that, yeah, that is going to be everything. That if you make that amount of money and you're going to be super happy, but it's not reality at all. And having something that makes you passionate and that you love and that you have energy about and that fulfills you, and that I had a business coach recently, and unbelievable experience. Like I was so saying about like never having a fitness coach or whatever. I was so against it. I was really like apprehensive, but we did an episode with him. I had him on as a guest as well, not to get for free, just out there. But we invited him on because I was like, mate, that's actually been really transformative. And he uses this example of a triangle, and you have these. Oh God, I'm going to explain it so bad. Wish I was smarter sometimes. But you have this triangle of your life, and in the middle is kind of like your. You have 3 points, and like in the middle is kind of like you living your like dharma, like your happy place. And if your 3 things aren't in the middle of that triangle, you're off. So for me, the podcast ticks everything. So it's creative, there's growth, and there's another one as well. Oh, freedom. So they're like my 3 things that I need. If I do a job where one of those isn't part of the triangle and it's out of the triangle, I feel out of balance. I don't feel good. I feel like, I should be doing something different, and I'm just not motivated. So I think doing that, honestly, has been so I know I've explained it badly.
No, I totally get
going through that has been someone who can just like look at your life kind of like someone looks at our podcast and goes like, right, why do you do that? Oh yeah, mate, it's because I love it. Like I can't wait to get up and make a clip for the podcast or whatever. Okay, right, so that's ticking that box. And I think you've got to, I'd advise anyone to go through that process now, like genuinely.
What maybe made you decide to go?
I felt I was so lost. And I'm sure you've been there, but you're just chasing your tail every day. You're so busy, but there's no direction in knowing what you're doing. And if you can hone that direction and understand the reason that you're going down, the reason that you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning making a clip, okay, it's because we're trying to get to that thing there. I think just going through a process of figuring that out for me has been life-changing, because I do get lost in projects and stuff because I love it, but I don't know why I'm doing it. And I think if you can figure it out and be like, okay, that's the reason that you enjoy that thing, that's the reason that you love working for that brand or working with that brand or whatever, it's because they tick those boxes for you.
I resonate with so much of that, and I think any business owner will resonate with that, where you just go on this path of like, these things seem to be working, so let's keep doing them, but you're not really sure whether they are working or not. They just at some point did work and you stuck with them. And I think podcasting is very much like that. There's no instant gratification, so you do all these things and the clips, and it's sometimes you can't see the kind of, like I said, the wood from the trees, and it can be murky sometimes. So having someone come and looking in and saying, actually, all these other things you're doing, they don't work, but those 3 things, they're really good. So keep those in there. We don't need those other 7 things. They can go. Yeah. But you hold on to them because you don't want to rock the boat. You know it worked in the past. True. And you know it got you to where you need to be. But maybe it's not working anymore. And it's about that reevaluation. Sometimes they can make you reevaluate what's actually working and what's not.
Yeah. I feel like that's a massive take-home point for maybe the listeners and the viewers to sort of think like, well, what's my idea of success? As cheesy as that might be, but what does that actually mean? Yeah. I went through a bit of a process a couple of years ago where I was on the phone for a work call. Just, I was with my son who was like 18 months old. And he picked up his little toy banana and he's like, Daddy work. And I'm like, don't want that.
Yeah.
like resigned that week.
Really,
just
yeah.
from a
That's
management
not
role,
it.
and I said I don't want to do that anymore. So it's just being aware of that sort of tipping point. What does success mean?
Yeah, totally. And I think if you can work with someone to help you define it, that is mass. I was so against it, but a friend of mine was like, "Mate, I think you need this now. You're all over the place.
That's
you know,
good.
you just don't know what you're doing, why you're doing it. You've not got a direction." And doing those 6 sessions with Tom was just game changing.
What is the direction now?
Mate, I have no clue. It's those 3 things. It's creativity, it's freedom, and it's seeing something grow. And I've established that is what I enjoy. The money is like whatever. That's just the byproduct, and that seems to happen if you stick within those things that make you motivated. So yeah, I just love I can't turn projects down, dude. If someone comes to me and they're like, "Oh, do you want to work on this?" I'm like, "Yeah, fuck, that's so good."
Yeah.
Because I love seeing something grow, but I don't attach money to it anymore at all. It's just that'll come.
The funny thing is, I think we hire business coaches
Have you worked
to help
before?
us. Yeah, I have in the past. Yeah,
Right,
more from a business point of view rather than like a looking at yourself and looking internal point of view. There was some elements of that as well. But I think, and every parent who listens to this podcast will know, kids are like that. Very unknowingly, kids are exactly like that. Because that story you just mentioned, every parent will have been through something similar where they're putting too much attention into something else, taking away from the kids. And at the same moment, I was sat on that very sofa right there, and I was on my phone, and Amy said, "Just go and take Harlow upstairs, have a little play with her while I could put some food on." I was like, "Right, yeah, okay, but I am sending this email, so I'll make sure this is sent off. It needs to go now to this person." And then she was playing on the floor, and she was getting a train set out, and she was playing with the trains. And I could see her in the corner of my eye. She was kind of talking to me, but I wasn't really paying attention. And she just came over, and she just grabbed my phone, and she put it on my chest like that.
Man.
And even now, like, it's like emotional to think about it, because she didn't know what I was doing, but she knew I wasn't giving her attention.
Yeah.
And all she wanted to do was send a signal to me to say, "That's not important. This is important."
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
"Shit, you're absolutely right." And I didn't even send the email, I just put my phone down. It's that very rarely happens where something takes my attention away from work that much. And we just sat and played trains for like half an hour. And I had no guilt about not sending the email, which I normally would have done.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if she's doing that physically right now, how many times has she thought that before she's made that move to put the phone down? How many times has that been through her mind where, yeah, Dad's spending too much time? And my daughter's not old, by the way. She was like 2 at the time. Two years old.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
She's 16. She's like,
No, she was
Sassy.
she was 2. Do you know what I mean? And that for a 2-year-old to get the phone and just turn it down so I couldn't see it, just so she'd get my attention for a minute.
Wow.
That was a real moment. I was like, yeah, I need to be on my phone less when I'm around her. And when it's just me and her, there needs to be that interaction. I had a real bombshell dropped on me yesterday. I told you, didn't I? So nursery rang me up and said there's no running water. So your kid can't come to nursery, basically. Me and my missus are both at work. I had to end up taking the day off. And I made a real point yesterday to not be on my phone, which for me, for a full day, 8 hours, is very tricky.
Yeah.
But it was like, right, I'm just going to sit here and watch Miss Rachel on the TV. And parents will be laughing because they know how monotonous her voice is after about 30 minutes. Then went to the park, and it took us to the park for like 3 hours, which is way longer than we would have been. But it meant that I wasn't on my phone. I wasn't checking it. I didn't took no videos, didn't post anything, which I might have done before. Like, just be like, it's content. And I was even going to do like a little reel saying, look, this is what happens sometimes. You get a bombshell dropped on you as a parent. And it would have made quite a bit of nice content. But I thought, no, because I'm on my phone again, and I don't want her to put the phone down, because that's always a possibility. So they are little business coaches sometimes that we need, and kids are great for that because they just say how it is as well.
That's beautiful, mate. I love that. Great anecdote. But it's when you're in the creative game as well, it's constant. It never stops, and I think it's getting a bit much again for me personally. It's getting to that. I had a meeting the other day with this company. No, they do something on social media. I still don't know what it is. It's something to do. You know when you see like someone will put in an Instagram caption like, comment blah 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 below, and we'll send you this ebook for free. You've seen that?
Yeah.
Comment dump, and we'll send you whatever.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So they're a company that basically do that. They set stuff like that up, and they also do these loyalty things where, like, I don't know, you can. The software they've got will go through your Instagram and be like, oh, this person's like the most posts, like they're like the most loyal.
It's got a name that I can't remember.
I think I know the name. ManyChat.
ManyChat, but it's the type of marketing's got a name. My mate, I should know because my best mate sells it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It's chatbots.
Something like
it's called chatbots, where they basically go into your social medias, and if you put out a post saying DM me the word like program, and I'll send you my fat loss program.
Yeah.
It it automates all that, and it has all access to like who's liking more posts, who's engaging with it more, chatbots. Yeah.
That's it. So I had a meeting with them. We've got a different name, but it's probably the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same thing.
And this guy, you can tell, he's like super into tech and social media. He's like well into it. And he's like asking me all these questions. And he's like, "What's your goal with social media?" And I was like, "Honestly, mate, give it someone else to manage, because I'm sick of being on it. Like, I don't enjoy it anymore that much, and I hate the hold it's got over my life. I hate the fact that I'm constantly thinking about it. If I put a clip up, how's that done? Do I need to reply to this?" And I was like, that is honestly my goal, is to employ somebody to manage it all, because it's just too much now. And I think I had this realization a while ago, especially with business, that you know, you go on Instagram and you see people's life, obviously, and you go, "Oh, I wish I was, living there, doing that." But you also have the same relationship with content. It's, for me, I see other podcasts and what they're doing, and you compare yours to that, and that is so unhealthy, because it's not sustainable for most people, and it's not sustainable for us. So you go on whatever podcast, Bad Friends, something like that is a good example, actually. They're posting 3 times on Instagram a day, and you're like, well, we're not. We're doing it once, sometimes twice, sometimes not even once a day. We're off. We're not on the ball. We need to be on it more, and it's just not sustainable. And then you kind of do realise, okay, they've probably got a team of 10 people doing that.
Yeah.
So you just have to, realise that it's not sustainable, and people don't care that much. Anyway, I don't think people. I always think, what are people going to think if we've not posted that clip or whatever, or there's that like bit in the podcast that we needed to get. And you just think, I don't want to live my life like that.
No. It's the biggest part. That's exactly what I find the most difficult part of my job, is keeping up with content.
Yeah.
And keeping yourself, because I can spend a whole day sometimes just producing one thing. If it takes a little bit longer to film, I've got to go to the gym, I'll film it downstairs, you've got to edit it all.
And then it bombs and you're like...
Yeah, exactly. You can get and then something you threw together about, that in 2 seconds gets an amazing reaction. And you're like, but you can't do that all the time either, because then that kind of gets diluted a little bit.
Totally.
But
it's a lot, isn't it?
I'm surprised in today's world there's not like just companies that every podcast now jumps upon you and gives a little kiss to Brad.
It's like, you normally give me attention. Why have you got to give me attention?
I'm surprised there's not companies out there that just do it all, but like with the social media it's hard, because you've got to know what who that person is, you've got to get their personality, you've got to understand their business model, where they're heading, got to understand the audience. We know all those things because we started the business from where it is to where it is now. It's hard to get someone else to come in and do that for you and your company.
It's been the biggest thing is passing stuff over. I really struggled with it. Even down to having Gareth manage some partnerships. It's like, I've known these people for so long, but you kind of have to. Like, having Doug and Naomi produce the podcast was massive, because it's like, I have my vision for it. If you're not on the same page, I am going to hate it and I'm going to want to change it. But you kind of have to, don't you?
I wanted to shout out a good friend of mine, Shane Beard, who when I was working under him, he was my MD, I was a general manager, and I was just spinning a lot of plates, and he turned to me one day and he said, "What is your purpose?" And like, it really like caught me off guard. I'm like, "What do you mean?" So I went through everything, like what I thought, and he went, "As a gaffer or as a leader, your purpose is literally to have no purpose." So it's quite nice to be like, you need to be free so you can solve problems, so you can be the creative drive, so you can prompt other people how to do it. And that completely shifted my own brain about delegation. I have no worries delegating anything.
Wow.
Because I'm just like, as long as I've been clear about what the expectations are, the expectation management, I'm cool. And it's that you have to go through that sort of giving up of control to get more control.
It's so
almost
hard when it's your baby though, and it's just like, you just feel like you're giving it over.
It's probably my biggest weakness. That
so hard.
I find it difficult to find people to have as much passion about it. And I've had other coaches who've worked here before. But again, no one's got it as much as I have, and no one's been as invested in, and probably no one ever will be. Do you know what I mean? And that's something you have to accept as well.
We've been really lucky in finding a few people, and honestly, I don't know what we'd do without them now.
And the hiring process is very much in your control as well, though. Do you know what I mean? So maybe having that as a bit more of a rigorous thing. And I might have mentioned it before on the podcast, but Branson is one of my favourite entrepreneurs of all time, and he never strikes you as that hard-nosed businessman, because he's always quite happy and jolly, and he's quite a bit of a hippie at heart, I think.
Yeah.
But his biggest asset was always being able to delegate and hire well, and not always like manage, get people, like big teams of people to kind of be really invested in what he was invested in and galvanise them. He was really good at that. And I always think that, I'd like to be more like that, but thinking it and doing it is two separate things, isn't it?
Yeah, I spoke to someone who runs a big business in Sheffield not that long ago and asked them the same question, like huge business, and I was like, how did you do that first hire? Like, and he just goes, well, I was shit at it, so I had to find someone better. Mate, that's a good point. I think we just think you're good at something because you do it. It doesn't necessarily mean you're good at it. Like, there'd be so many people better at doing the social media stuff than me, or even the hosting the damn thing. Like, there'd be so good though, wouldn't there? You could easily plug someone else better in, but it's your thing. It's what you do. So you I really struggle to just go, there you go.
Give someone else the reins. Yeah. It is hard, really hard.
But it's got to happen at some point.
No, I'm very cautious of your time, Davey, as well. I know you're a busy man. You've got a big meeting
busy
coming
full, but I've got direction now, so
What was it?
Freedom.
What was the name of your business coach? I'm really interested.
Tom Pinchard.
Tom Pinchard.
Yeah, we did an episode with him not long ago.
I'll check it out, absolutely.
And it's worth listening to, I think. He's amazing.
That analogy resonated with me, so I'm keen to kind of hear his thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, check the episode out.
Get some free advice.
And get some free advice.
Yeah.
It's fucking expensive.
Sounds worth it. You're not so saying that. It's really worth it, but wait and go.
I told him, I was like, mate, this is a lot. I'm to be honest. I'm out of my comfort zone here as a Northern England guy who's never had anything.
Mate, when I got the business coach a few years ago, same thing. It was uncomfortable, but I think in your own mind, you think, if it is uncomfortable, though, I'm more likely to follow it and take the advice on board. You've got to sometimes.
You've got to be financially invested as well.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I have to. If it's something I'm putting a lot of money into, the same thing as a Northern bloke who can be a bit tight sometimes. If I'm putting a lot into it, I will give it my all. So
that process has been funny. Sorry, bang on. But I remember doing it, and we did the last session, and I was a bit like, meh, it was all right. But then the fact it's kept coming up means that something flipped, like something happened, something stuck with me. So now I'm just like, oh mate, it's so worth it, so worth doing. It's what a great guy.
Amazing.
Life changing.
Speaking of something being flipped, we usually do this with other coaches where I pass on to other coaches and I say, look, have you got any questions for me and Ryan? But I feel like you're quite well versed to potentially, if there's anything curious you want to know about, mine and Ryan's world.
I wrote it down.
Have you?
Yeah, I did.
This never happened before.
No, I did. I was like, I better be prepared. I hope they've moved over. So yeah, excuse me. I don't know where I put them. They're in my notes and my phone's off. So
no, don't worry. This is
I was a bit prepared. I was like, you know what? You never know. I might need a question or two.
No, this is a podcast. Podcast first, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a podcast. Podcast who knows what they're doing.
I just don't know where I put them.
No,
and sometimes when you notice them,
transfer over.
Yeah.
What did you say? Was it on your iPad or something?
I did it on my laptop this morning.
I have that same issue with the iPad, so I write it on my phone and then it transfers over to my iPad, but sometimes it doesn't. And we've started podcast episodes where all my questions haven't loaded.
Oh yeah, it's annoying, isn't it?
And we're 10 minutes in and Brad's going, have you got any questions, Ryan? I'm like, yeah, I have. And I'm not looking at my iPad.
Trello, mate.
Trello. Yeah, I do Trello. Yeah.
Trello's so sick.
It's like Notes, but 10x.
It's basically like an event management software. But I used to use it in my old management job and I've just carried it over into my personal work now. And it's great. It's a nice little project management thing. It's basically my brain on a piece of software. So anything that I think, I'm like, I'll create that as a note and then I can put descriptions in it and I can set reminders like, oh shit, I said I'd do that last week. My brain don't work like that. My brain's going, I'm going to spend too much time setting that up when I'm actually doing something. Like, that's how my brain works. And then I don't do anything on the list.
I'm like that. All right, I've got two, a bit off the top of my head. So what's the most dad thing you've done in the last month or two, or since the last episode?
Stood up while slapping my legs and saying, right, are you ready to leave somewhere? That happened to me at the weekend. I stood up to leave and I went, right. And then just stood up.
No.
I felt like, become my dad. No.
There's little things you do in life sometimes where you go, oh, I sound like my dad there. Or my dad used to do that. And you realise you're making that move towards dad life. Yeah.
What's yours?
For me, it was probably another moment in the park the other week where I bought Harlow like a little push bike. So no pedal, just with the feet. And she was really keen to go in it. And I was a bit in a rush. I wanted to kind of get around the park back. So I let her take it. Halfway around the park, furthest point away, she throws a tantrum, throws back to side, don't want to walk, don't want to ride, just wants to be picked up. But I've taken the dog with me as well.
Okay.
So I'm now walking around the park. I've got her in one hand, I've got the bike over me shoulder, and I've got the dog there. So I'm balancing the bike, I've got her, and I'm being pulled around. And I'm like, why am I doing this? What has my life come to? And I'm just like in the most, and I've got my coat on, I'm hot and I'm sweating. And my arms, I trained biceps the day before, so my biceps were in pieces. And I thought, this is just torture. This is just some new level of torture, this, where the dog wants to have a shit over there, she's crying in my ear, my bike's about to fall off, my biceps are hurting.
This isn't why they call it a balance bike. It's not for you to balance.
Yeah, that was a real dad moment. I was like, yeah, I'm in the trenches here.
That's brilliant. And I love this question. It's a hijack off Tim Ferriss, right? But I love this question. If you could write anything on a billboard which goes around the world and it has to stay there for, I don't know, a month, what would you write on it?
Stay curious.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh, I've thought about this before.
Have you? Yeah, I think that all the time.
Because whilst I just give Ryan a bit of time to process, because I feel like he's going to go a bit deeper than what I have. I love that word. I love the word curiosity. Okay. It's something I've tried to instill in Teddy, my son. And I'm sort of seeing the benefits of it now. Mm-hmm. Like we did stay and play at nursery earlier, and I can see he just wants to know everything. He's like, why's that?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, why are you here? Like, what? Yeah. This is my nursery. Why are you here? And just like the thought of him wanting to know information and knowing that he can do something with that information.
Were you like that though, as a kid?
Yeah, massively. I love multicultural things. I love diversity. I did martial arts as a kid, so like Japanese culture's like instilled in my head.
Right.
And they're quite a curious nation, if you like. They're really, as much as the traditional, they're always forward thinking. So they'll stay true to their roots, but they're also looking forward for technology and tradition in equal measure. Okay. I like that.
Interesting. That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Stay curious. Yeah. That's the one billboard. It's a good social clip.
I'll let that one for you, mate. I'll send that one over.
Here we go. Another one now.
No pressure. This is where I get really nervous. I know it. I might clip it up. No, mine would definitely be some advice that I got given when I first started 10 years ago, and it was actually on an audiobook. So I was listening to podcasts, audiobooks, and it was a phrase that I think's moulded me to where I am today, and it was, find something you would do for free and learn how to get paid from it. That just changed every single thing about how I thought about the direction I was heading in life, because we get caught, as you know, in like these jobs and tasks day to day that we just hate over time.
Yeah.
And we might get bogged down a little bit, us three, with what we do, but we're still have a certain sense of freedom, don't we? And there's still a certain sense of, I can just at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday drop everything and get a podcast guest on.
Yeah,
that's nice. I like that freedom, and that's a big kind of, focal point of mine. But I can't ever imagine a world where I hated what I did for 8 hours a day and I just did it because it paid the bills. Yeah. And I think I saw that in my dad when I was young. He was an accountant, enjoyed what he did, but you spend 40 years being an accountant, it really grinds down on you after a while. And I think he got to the point where he was probably self-sabotaging a little bit in what he did and didn't really care that much.
Yeah.
And I never ever want to get to that point in my own life where I'm doing things just for the money. I want to do things that I would do for free. Everything I do in my life right now, I would do it for free. I've just learned how to get paid from it.
There you go. I think, using your dad as that example and doing the triangle exercise that I did with that coach, not only does it help you understand yourself, but you understand other people around you, because not everyone has that same mentality as what we talk about. Some people love 9 to 5, and I've learned that about people, especially people that I work closely with. You're like, oh, that's why they don't like the 9 p.m. WhatsApp. Hey man, what about this on a Friday? Because they're done. Do you know what I mean?
They've got those boundaries.
And it's just helped me understand people that I work with and be like, okay, that's maybe why not everyone sees the world like I see it.
Yeah.
Not everyone is that hungry of projects and doing cool stuff and whatever. They just want to do the job, get the money, do their other thing. And that's fine. It's absolutely fine. Whereas I used to be a bit like, what the fuck? Why don't you understand that it's Sunday and we should be doing this thing? Because they're just not in that.
But you also don't want that dickhead boss that's demanding more.
Definitely not. Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, you have to respect boundaries. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What would yours be, Davey? The billboard?
I think it'd be... Listen to the Ride Companion, of course. No, it'd be a QR code. It'd just be a QR code. No, it'd be a jump, you might fall, you might fly. I like that. That's like the ending of my favourite poem in the world. that I've lived my life by. I've got it tattooed down me. Like, I just love that. Why not? You give it a go.
Take the risk.
Yeah. Jump, you might fall, you might fly. It stuck with me. It was a magazine article when I was a kid. And I cut it out and I had it stuck on my wall. It's a really nice poem. Not really a poem, but it's just this piece of text, I guess, which is basically about following your bliss. And I've got follow your bliss tattooed on me as well because I'm weird. And it's always a reminder. But yeah, I'd go with that. Jump, you might fall, you might fly.
Yeah, I love that.
Amazing. Yeah. Deep. If people want to find more about what you do and the amazing work you're doing at Ride Companion.
Thank you. The Ride Companion. We're everywhere. Literally everywhere. It's so annoying. YouTube. Apple. Spotify, TikTok, everywhere.
The list goes on. There's a new one every year, isn't there?
We're everywhere. But yeah, that's where we're at. If anyone wants to come and check it out, if you're not into mountain biking, it doesn't matter. We barely talk about biking, to be honest. We do, but we don't a lot of the time. I've always, again, wanted to not really be a bike show. Listen to an episode about a business coach or a fitness coach or a nutritionist or whatever. So yeah,
all the best podcasts are like that. Diverse.
Diverse,
sure.
Exactly. So yeah, the Ride Companion.
Love that.
Look down the barrel then as well.
There we go. Little wink as well. I'm going to go and buy Teddy a BMX.
And some resistance bands.
There we go.
Some Fit Dad's resistance bands.
We'll make that happen.
Yeah. There you go. FD bands.
One more shout out we should probably say is we've got a new Instagram for the page now of the podcast. So if you guys want to check that out, it's on Instagram. The Fit Dads podcast. Fit Dads podcast. That's it. So check it out there. And as always, like, subscribe. You'll get the latest episode every week, and we will see you on the next one.
See you soon.
Meg, thank you so much. Awesome.
Appreciate you, mate. Really good. Appreciate you.